A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
This I believe. We have never accepted the myth that the mentality of the average American is that of a 12-year-old. Neither has movie producer Dory Sherry. This faith in the intelligence of human beings has resulted for us in this series of broadcasts of living creeds, and for Mr. Sherry, in truly adult motion pictures. His tremendous ability as a writer, producer, and executive, which he has used honestly and vigorously in support of his high principles, has firmly established him as one of Hollywood's first citizens. This is his creed.
What we believe is usually the result of what we have lived, and it is difficult to synopsize 46 years of living and believing in 600 words. But these things I do believe. Having been reared in a religious home, and having known many people of sincere and deep religious convictions of many faiths, I believe in God and in prayer. I believe in the Ten Commandments, and since obedience to the law is a deep factor in the Jewish faith, I believe conscientiously in law and order. Being the son of immigrant parents who found opportunity and security in America, and having been a student of our history, I believe deeply in America and its conscience and philosophy. I believe that our republic has operated for a longer time with more good for most people than any other government in history. And so I believe in democracy, and view any kind of totalitarianism as a dangerous threat and a menace. Having been happily married for 20 years and blessed with 3 children, I have firm convictions about the family unit and its effect on the human spirit. Since love and understanding form the keystone of the family unit, and since our society is actually an extension of the family unit, spreading from the family to the neighborhood, to the city, to the state, to the nation, and hopefully one day to the world, I most sincerely believe in love and understanding. Having enjoyed the friendship of many people in many places for many years, I believe in the innate dignity of the individual, and have learned that in the main, people are as we choose to find them. I also believe that reason can overcome prejudice, that knowledge can overcome ignorance, that love can overcome hate, and that goodness can conquer evil. Finally, I believe that in our temporal world, the greatest force that can operate for the best interest of all is the cleansing and strengthening force of wisdom, without which man would still be living in caves, slightly removed from the beasts whose skin he would wear to cover himself. Wisdom has given us our homes, our factories, and our dams, our medicine and our automobiles, our toys and our weapons, our subways and our planes, our books and our radio, our motion pictures and our television. Wisdom has given us our faith, and wisdom brings us hope and trust in the future, along with pride in our past. With wisdom we flourish and live. Without it we wither and die. With wisdom years can keep us young in heart and mind. Without it we grow old. With wisdom we can be strong and know no fear. Without it we become weak and frightened. These things I believe, not alone because I choose them, but primarily because I have lived them, and living is believing.
That was Dory Sherry, head of production at MGM. The son of immigrant parents, Mr. Sherry reached his present position by way of jobs as necktie salesman, printer's devil, manual laborer, actor, playwright, director, and producer. His convictions make us realize that Hollywood itself has promise of maturity.
The Anchor Hocking Glass Corporation brings you Crime Photographer.
Gee, it's hot today, Casey. Here it is, only April 24th.
April 24th, the anniversary of Ethelred.
My anniversary, Casey? You know I ain't even married.
I didn't say you, Ethelbert. I said Ethelred, once King of England.
Oh, what's he famous for?
Oh, who knows? But everyone knows what Anchor Hocking is famous for. Anchor Hocking is the most famous name in glass. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tony Marvin. Every week at this time, the Anchor Hocking Glass Corporation of Lancaster, Ohio, and its more than 10,000 employees bring you another adventure of Casey, crime photographer, ace cameraman who covers the crime news of a great city. Written by Alonzo Dean Cole, our adventure for tonight, The Gentle Strangler. April, spring, around 9 o'clock in the evening. A quiet neighbor. From one of these homes, a dignified, white-haired gentleman emerges and strolls leisurely down a tree-lined avenue. A man appears from the shadow of one of the trees and...
Pardon me? Can I beg the favor of a light?
Light?
I wish to smoke. I have a cigarette and no match.
No, certainly. My lighter.
Thank you. You are Judge Whitcomb, are you not?
Yes.
I have seen your pictures in the papers.
Well,
May I walk with you to the next corner?
if you wish.
Good evening, Judge.
Oh, good evening, Dr. Crawford.
Beautiful night.
Lovely, lovely.
Spring is finally here.
Yes, spring. The end of winter. The beginning.
I don't recognize you, sir. You live in this neighborhood?
No. I do not live anywhere.
I beg your pardon.
I say, I do not live.
I do not understand.
You will. Because the dead do not live.
The dead?
Yes, Judge Whitcomb. This clump of evergreens here. They are the dense. They cast deep shadows.
Why are you choking me?
You see, Judge, you do not live anymore. You do not live.
Hold it a second, guys, will you? I want to get a shot of you putting that body in the dead wagon.
Okay, Casey.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Slide him in, Jim. Let's go.
Now, Logan, how did old Judge Whitcomb get it, huh?
Oh, the captain's just been telling me you strangled Casey by a person unknown.
Strangled?
Like Assistant District Attorney Dunning got his last week.
And are you newspaper people going to make things sweet for me, Miss Williams, if I don't crack both cases in a hurry?
Well, when big shot citizens like a judge and an assistant DA aren't safe within a few minutes' walk of their own front doors, pal, there's obviously something wrong someplace.
I'm in no mood for kidding.
Who said I was kidding?
You're nuts.
Okay. When was the judge strangled?
About 9 o'clock. He started out for his usual evening walk. Shortly after he left his house, Dr. Crawford, who lives in the next block, saw him with a strange man. But except that he was a big guy, the doc can't give any description of the stranger.
Well, nothing was stolen from the judge, Casey. Apparently, the motive wasn't robbery any more than it was in the Dunning murder.
When a criminal court's judge and an assistant DA get killed within a week of each other, Logan, and are killed the same way...
Or it looks as though someone they sent to jail is pulling a payoff.
Oh, Dunning prosecuted an awful lot of crooks before Judge Whitcomb.
Hundreds, Miss Williams. It won't be easy to figure the particular one who killed them both.
This thing tonight at least looks like a tie-up.
Yeah, the man last seen with the judge is described as big. That's something.
Well, I'm heading downtown to check all cases Dunning prosecuted in Whitcomb's court. Then we'll see how much those somethings are.
Joe, will you take care of that lady over at the table? She wants a glass of half and half that's a third ginger ale. Oh, such people come in here, Miss Williams. They ask for the darndest things. I'll have another glass of water, pal. There, you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Your pretzels, Ethelbert, have given him a thirst.
That's the idea of having pretzels on the bar. But a thirst for water don't pay our rent or our license. I'll tell you what. I'll come in here someday and buy a beer, Ethelbert. That is when the price comes down. Have a pretzel, Annie?
Mind if I do?
While you two are eating up the profits, What's new on them strangling cases?
Don't you read the papers?
Sure I do. And I think it's a crying shame the way they're all picking on Captain Logan. You and Miss Williams told me he ain't got a single clue to work on outside of the idea that Dunning and Judge Whitcomb was killed by the same man.
Yeah, well, that idea's beginning to pay off now, Ethelbert. Logan made an arrest this evening.
He did?
Yep.
It looks as though he has the right man.
Well, tell me about it.
Well, about 8 years ago, Lloyd Dunning prosecuted a crook named Rankin before Judge Whitcomb on a burglary charge. He got a conviction. And the judge gave Rankin the limit. Rankin claimed he'd had a raw deal, made a lot of big threats.
He was released from prison just a week before Dunning was strangled. He's a big man, and he has no alibi for the times when the killings took place.
Have another pretzel.
Thanks.
A little more water, Ethelbert.
For both of us.
You know that water's on a meter, don't you? This is becoming an outright swindle.
Hey, you better fill the pretzel bowl up, too. We're touching bottom down here.
Okay, but... Oh, excuse me, there's the bar phone.
His pretzels were saved by the bell, Annie.
Blue Note Cafe, Ethelbert speaking. Yeah, he's right here. Your city editor, Casey.
Uh-oh. All right, give me it.
Take it.
Hello, Bert. Wait a minute. Oh, now, Bert. Well, okay, all right, I got a pencil ready. Go ahead, shoot. Alleyway on Market Street, just south of 12th. I got it. Huh? What's happened there? What? We're on our way, Bert, right now.
What is it, Casey?
Another strangling, Annie.
Another?
A detective got it this time, and Rankin didn't do the job. He's locked up in jail.
That corpse was Barney Lennon, Casey. One of my homicide guys and one of the best.
Yes, he was a swell cop, Logan. Swell guy, too. Now, this strangler must be an awfully strong guy. Barney was no pushover.
Well, the strangler must have gotten him unaware.
He must have.
You know, Barney Lennon must have arrested the man whom Dunning prosecuted and Judge Whitcomb sentenced.
Oh, maybe these three stranglings are wholly unrelated. Maybe we're dealing with a maniac.
Well, the killer may be a maniac, Logan, but it's stretching that long arm of coincidence too far to believe that these three jobs are unrelated.
Yes, 3 law enforcement officers in the same way and within 3 weeks.
Yeah. A job a week. The killer may give us proof of relationship, Logan. Next week.
Look, Mr. Candido, never have I offered anyone such a bargain in my shop. An almost new speed graphic camera with a double plasma 12.
Jake, I need another camera like you need 12 toes.
And sell one of your old ones. I'll make you a trade. If I lose money, so
If you lost money on a deal, so it'd be a miracle. I'm trading no cameras today.
You know, hey, a man can only try, you know.
Send out that stuff I ordered first thing in the morning, will you?
For you, Mr. Candido, I'll have it delivered as soon as I open the shop.
And don't forget, I need those photo folders especially.
You'll get them. The new business is doing good, huh?
I can't complain.
When I think of you running a photographic studio that specializes in taking pictures of little children, I got to laugh. You who used to be a press photographer taking shots of fires and accidents and political conventions.
Yeah, it was those conventions that made me decide to leave the newspaper business. Good night, Jake.
Well, I'll take you to the door, then I'm going to lock up and go home myself. There wouldn't be any more business tonight.
That big guy looking in your window may be a customer.
Dan, don't be crazy. He's just a window shopper. I can always tell. Well, good night, Mr. Candido.
Night, Jake. And don't forget that early delivery.
First thing in the morning, you'll get it. I got it all written down.
Nice cameras you have in your window.
The best that money can buy, mister.
I'd like to buy one.
You like it? Say, well, a man could be wrong.
I beg your pardon?
I was just saying to my last customer that you was only a window shopper. I was going to close up. Oh, come on in.
Thank you. You are the proprietor of this?
Me. Now, what kind of camera can I show you?
Do you keep other things besides cameras?
Anything for taking pictures, I got it.
Where? This store is so small.
I got a big stock room in front.
Before I select a new camera, I had in mind an enlarger.
Well, I got that big stuff in back. Now, what size do you want? Now, bring it out.
To save you the trouble, suppose I go with you and look.
Okay, this way. And what a bargain I can give you. Like none you ever had before in your life. If it's a 4x5 you want, I got an open condenser. And if it's a 5.7, I got an only projection that would make your head...
only you I want. Only you I want. Only you.
Strangling proves we're dealing with a madman, Casey. This Jake Blumberg had nothing to do with the law. He simply ran a little camera shop.
Jake once had something to do with law enforcement, Logan.
Yeah?
What, Casey?
He was a star witness, Annie, in a murder case.
Oh, hey, I remember now.
Yeah, I thought you would, pal.
It was his testimony that got that Ivanov girl a death sentence.
Mm-hmm. You remember the rest?
Barney Lennon arrested her. Dunning prosecuted her. Judge Whitcomb sentenced her.
Right.
Casey.
Yeah. I'm the guy who dug up the evidence against her. I must be next on the Strangler's list.
With present living costs what they are, Fire King Oven Glass is doubly welcome. One, because Fire King Oven Glass is a product of Anchor Hocking, the world's largest makers of household glass, its cost is incredibly low, and each piece is guaranteed for 2 years against oven breakage. Two, Fire King Oven Glass lets you make delicious, healthful meals out of leftovers of all kinds and out of inexpensive ingredients. And foods baked in Fire King Oven Glass inside the oven retain all their precious vitamins and delicious flavor. So ask for Fire King Oven Glass by name at your favorite chain, variety, hardware, and department store. Beautiful, practical, inexpensive Fire King Oven Glass is a product of Anchor Hocking. The most famous name in glass.
Come on now, talk, Casey. Tell me about this Ivanov case.
Well, okay, Annie. It was before you came to work on the paper.
1939 or 40.
39, Logan. The war just started in Europe.
Yeah.
Well, a gal named Irene Ivanov was suspected of poisoning some guy. She handed him a poisoned cocktail
But,
one night.
Casey, what did you have to do with this case?
Casey discovered that Irene Ivanov had bought the poison at Jake Blumberg's camera shop in the form of a chemical used in developing photographs. Now, he got Jake to identify her, and that convinced the jury.
Assistant District Attorney Dunning, Barney Lennon, and I were able to show that the Ivanov dame never even snapped a camera shutter in her life and had no legitimate use for photographic supply.
Before Judge Whitcomb could sentence her, she committed suicide.
Suicide?
Yep. Got hold of a razor blade in jail and cut her wrist. When her mother heard the news, she had a fatal heart attack, and they were buried together. Now, this Irene was an only child.
But, Casey, how does the Strangler tie in with this? You say the Ivanov girl was an only child, and that she and her mother are dead.
Mm-hmm.
What about the father?
Before the murder, he had gone back to Russia, Annie. The Soviet government, with a war headed its way, kept him over there.
When he heard what had happened to his wife and daughter, Miss Williams, poor fellow had to be put in a madhouse.
Well, you think he's been released and is back in this country?
It's possible.
After what's happened, I'd say it's probable.
Oh. Well, then all you have to do is to find him and...
Miss Williams, how do you find a man you've never seen and who has no criminal record?
Now, the only thing I can remember, even being said about him, Logan, in a descriptive way, I mean, was that he was a big and a gentle guy.
I don't remember the gentle part, but his bigness clicked with me as soon as you mentioned the Ivanov case.
Did anybody see a big guy come into this camera shop before Jake was killed?
I don't know, but the last sale he made before he was killed was for stuff to be delivered to a Mr. P. Candido.
Candido?
Yeah, here's his order book with the name and address.
Hey, that's Pat Candido.
Pat?
Sure, Pat Candido. You know him, Logan. He used to be on the news.
Yeah.
And if Pat happened to see that big guy...
It's been his business to notice things.
Come on, we're calling on Candido right away.
A medical examiner says that Jake was killed at about 7:30, Candido. You say you left his shop at about that time?
Yes, Jake said he was closing up his place and going home. But I saw someone go in right after I left.
What did he look like, Pat?
He was big, Casey. That's all I can tell you about him.
Oh, you got to tell us more than that, fella. That guy was Jake's murderer. Now think. Come on.
I've been thinking. He was Just a big guy I saw looking in a window and never expected to see again.
And you were supposed to be a hot press photographer before you got soft and went into the baby picture racket. You were supposed to have a nose for news.
Oh, was my nose supposed to tell me he was going to commit a murder?
Oh, I'm sorry, Pat.
I'm sorry I let you down, Casey, but I just don't remember. Wait a minute. That big guy has eyes like a baby's.
Like a bit. What do you mean?
I take pictures of young kids all day, and, well, the babies, the infants, their eyes are different. They seldom focus when they look at you. They seem to look through you and all around you and not at you.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Pat, but that isn't much help. But the best you can do for us, huh?
That's all I can do for you.
Yeah, well, thanks, pal. At least more than we had before.
Well, now, that isn't enough to give Casey warning of a man who undoubtedly intends to strangle him next week. Now, what are you going to do about that, Captain Logan?
Don't worry, Miss Williams. Casey won't be alone any moment of the day or night from now on.
Huh? What do you mean I won't be alone?
Well, I'm not particularly concerned about your skin. And I want to catch a murderer in your bait. Wherever you go and whatever you do, a cop will be right beside you.
You know, I feel like a 2-year-old kid that isn't allowed out without his nursemaid. It's bad enough in the daytime, but when I have to look at one of you cops in my own apartment at night here...
I don't like it any better than you do, Casey. If you're a pleasant company, it wouldn't be so bad, but you do nothing but gripe.
Well, I'm sorry, Mac. Would you like a drink?
I would, yeah. But if I touched a drop and the captain found it out, I'd be back to pavement pounding in a uniform. When he gives orders to guard a guy, he means you don't do it with liquor under your belt.
That isn't even any sociability with you, Lugs.
Well, you ought to be glad we're on our toes. You know, Casey, it's just a week ago tonight since Jake Blumberg was knocked off. And you're next.
I could handle that strangler by myself. I'm not anemic, you know.
You don't know the guy, Casey.
Wonder if Ivanov has a Russian accent.
No, it isn't likely. He was brought to this country as a kid and lived here most of his life.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's almost midnight, Mac.
Yeah.
Start work tomorrow on the 8 a.m. shift, so I might as well hit the sack again.
Yeah, I'll be able to do a little sleeping myself tonight. Hope my relief shows up at 12 sharp.
Who is your relief tonight?
Oh, some guy named Norris. I don't know him. He's a uniformed cop from the precinct house.
A uniformed cop?
Yeah, Detective Bureau hasn't enough men to do all its work right now, Casey. We homicide guys especially have more than we can do.
I know that.
Of course, a plainclothes guy like me will pick you up in the morning.
That'll be something I'll look forward to.
Yeah.
Well, I hope Patrolman Norris won't mind a little fancy snoring. Well, I'm going to change into my pajamas.
All right, this is the place, Norris. Casey's apartment, 3B.
Thanks for giving me a lift here, Lieutenant.
It's all right, I was going this way. I remember your instructions, lad. No sleeping on this job. Keep your eyes open and your ears working. Anything happened to Casey while you're on duty, it'll be too bad for you. And if you're lucky enough to nab the strangler, you can store away that uniform and get yourself a detective shield.
I'll be on the job, sir.
All right, you find a drive-it-yourself elevator back to the lobby stairs. Good night, Norris.
Night, Lieutenant.
Good evening, officer.
Evening.
Going to Mr. Casey's apartment.
Who wants to know?
I'm a friend of his. Just left him. The detective with him said he was expecting his relief.
Oh, I see.
Here's the elevator. I just got out of it. Press number 3 button there.
Oh, thanks.
You went to sleep nice and quiet, officer. Hardly a sound. I'll take you to the roof and tie you up. You're big like me. Your uniform will fit me fine.
That relief cop is over 5 minutes late already, Casey.
Well, you're actually off duty now, Mac. How about that nightcap?
No, thanks. Not till the guy gets here.
Here I'm all ready to hit the beauty rest, and you keep me up because I only give you a little hospitality before you shove off. Well, there's your relief.
No.
Now I'll get him.
Yep. Keep away from that door, Casey.
What do you mean?
It just might be the bird I'm guarding you against.
Oh, nuts.
Who's there?
Officer Norris, 23rd Precinct.
Okay, just a minute.
Cop with a list.
One of our best sticks on the safe and loss squad stutters.
Yeah, I know him.
All right, come in, Norris.
Thanks. I'm your relief.
Yeah, and a late relief.
I'm sorry, it couldn't be helped.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, too. All right, give me that nightcap, Casey, and I'll get out of here.
Okay, Mac. How about you, Norris?
No, thank you.
I guess you know your orders.
Yes.
You know, I never run into you before, Norris. My name's McAvoy.
Nice to know you.
I'm Casey.
Nice to meet you.
All right. Here's your poison, Mac.
Oh, thanks, Casey. Well, here's how.
How?
Well, I'm heading for home now. You lock the door when I go out, Norris, and take care of this lug Casey.
I'll take care of him.
You'll find me a pain in the neck, but you'll have to stand for that. Sock him if he gripes too much and put him to sleep.
I may do that.
Come on, get out of here, Mac.
Yeah, I'm on the way, Casey. Good night.
All right.
Good night. Now, I'll lock the door.
I'm going to bed, Norris. There's a lot of magazines on that table for you to read if you want. The books and the case and this bottle. Help yourself to all of them.
Thanks very much.
You got a long, dreary night ahead of you.
All nights are long.
Well, I'd hate to have your job, sitting up guarding a guy that snores.
Maybe you won't snore tonight.
You're an optimist. Yeah, good night.
Good night.
Say,
Yes?
how did a guy like you ever decide to be a cop?
It was a means to an end.
What end? Excuse me, I'm getting kind of personal on such short acquaintance, but you seem such a gentle sort of fellow that I... Gentle?
Why do you look at me like that, Mr. Casey?
It's sizing you up.
How do you size me up?
Okay. You're okay. Think I'll have a nightcap.
I prescribe it.
Sure you won't join me?
No, thank you. Detective McAvoy should be out of the building now. Well on his way home, don't you think?
Yeah.
I think so, too. And since we won't be disturbed...
No, you don't! The whiskey! I've got a full glass right in him. I even off.
I've got my hands on you now. You'll die like the others who killed my daughter.
Hey, you can't move so quick. But you're not going to strangle me.
I can see. Again, I have a gun.
You won't use it, though. How was that precise? Now try this on your whiskers. Boy, you'd ever really gotten those big mitts of yours around my neck. Hello, headquarters. Give me Captain Logan, will you? He isn't in, huh? Well, when he comes in, tell him Casey called. And to send a wagon up to my joint for the Strangler. Yeah, he's sleeping right now in my apartment, and I'm afraid I'll wake him up if I start to snore. Oh, wait a minute. Give Logan another message for me. Tell him my opinion of his idea about having me guarded is phooey.
Breakfast time tomorrow morning is a long way off, and that makes breakfast just about the most important meal of the day. Now, when I was a small boy, breakfast was an exciting experience. On my grandmother's table, there was always a great plate of hot golden brown toast and at least a half dozen different jellies, jams, and preserves to add zest and sparkle to those good old-fashioned breakfasts. Now, that's one reason we're so glad tonight to salute the Preserve Industry Council of America for its magnificent campaign to brighten up the breakfast toast with mouth-watering strawberry and apricot, sweet tart orange marmalade, and blackberry jam, fragrant apple butter, and currant jelly. Why, how much more inviting they can make your breakfast table. They whet young appetites, provide quick energy to see you through the day. Practically all preserves come to you today in crystal-clear sanitary glass containers. Anchor glass containers and modern anchor hocking sealing methods not only protect these superb products of tree and bush and vine more perfectly than any methods known to our grandparents, but they also provide a stimulating, colorful rainbow on the table. Always serve a variety of jams, jellies, and preserves at breakfast. Anchor glass containers and easy-to-remove Anchor caps are both products of Anchor Hocking, the most famous name in glass.
But, Casey, how did you get wise to that Ivanov guy in the cop's uniform?
His eyes were like a baby's, Ethelbert. They didn't focus.
The eyes of mad people are often like that.
Yeah. And Ivanov is as crazy as they come, poor devil. He's going to spend the rest of his life in a nut house. Of course, those funny eyes Pat Candido noticed put me on guard, you see. I filled that whiskey glass just in case. I wasn't going to take any chances.
Ivanov had the cop's revolver, Ethelbert, in case he couldn't take chances.
Right.
How'd you find the cop whose uniform Ivanov had taken?
He was on the roof, tied up and gagged. Otherwise, he was okay.
Ivanov had been listening outside Casey's door. He heard the name of the cop that was to relieve McAvoy, and that McAvoy didn't know him personally. So he just put poor Norris to sleep and took his place.
Seems to me that for a crazy guy, he went about his strangling business in a pretty smart way.
Well, insane people often have a very sane side, pal.
And vice versa.
Why look at me?
I wasn't looking at you, Casey. I was looking at that pretzel bowl.
Oh. Well, don't just look at it.
It's empty again. Fill it up.
Yeah. And Ethelbert.
I know. 2 more glasses of water.
Yeah. And cold this time.
Crime Photographer, starring South Cotsworth as Casey, is brought to you each Thursday by the Anchor Hocking Glass Corporation and is directed by John Dean. The original music is by Archie Blyer, and the program features Miss Jan Miner as Anne and John Gibson as Ethelbert. Herman Chittison is the Blue Note pianist. Thursday night on CBS is the biggest show in town, so stay tuned for exciting dramatizations on Reader's Digest Radio Edition, which follows immediately over most of these stations. Next week, part of the country goes on daylight saving time. If your area remains on standard time, tune in your favorite radio program, Crime Photographer, 1 hour earlier. This is Tony Marvin saying goodnight for the Anchor Hocking Glass Corporation of Lancaster, Ohio, with offices in all principal cities of the United States and Canada. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
This I believe. Douglas Fairbanks, Jr. is an actor, but off the screen he is active in public and diplomatic affairs, and as a writer contributes to magazines and newspapers. Born in New York, he now makes his home with his wife and 3 daughters in California, Virginia, and England. Hear now the beliefs that have guided his life.
When I was 13, my father was a uniquely well-known and loved man. At the top of his chosen profession, he was what every boy from 6 to 60 wanted to be. And when, for a number of reasons, I decided to become an actor too, my father, strangely enough, became my first major obstacle. He was dead set against any such goings-on. While I can understand much of his reasoning now, I was, with the arrogant myopia of youth, determined to proceed. He told me in very straight language that he would do everything in his power to prevent my entering his profession at that time. Despite this, and maybe because of it, I went ahead with unyielding determination, tempered with what small fund of discretion is given to a 13-year-old. There were many disappointments and disillusionments, but these setbacks only angered rather than discouraged me. Eventually, I succeeded. A victory, the extent of which was measured by my father's pleased acknowledgment of it. I learned early that one must set oneself an objective, a goal of some kind, and keep heading for it, welcoming the while all the deviations or obstacles encountered on the way. If it is my good fortune eventually to arrive, or nearly arrive, at the goal set, so much the better. But what matters more to me, I find, is the fun in the doing, in the attempt to achieve, more than achievement itself. At what might be called a high spot of my professional career, I felt the need of a new objective. My off-duty experience and study had, by the accidents of my life, been in the world of national and international affairs. Hence, though there was no exact moment of decision, I realized one day that my new interest lay in official or semi-official public service. Close friends and advisers warned me against taking on a government assignment. This was too radical a change of character for the public to accept, they said. It preferred its theatrical personalities to be that and nothing else. An actor would be unacceptable in any diplomatic capacity because of a preconceived bias about showfolk. Hence, it was argued that I might fail in any assigned mission, as well as damage my professional career at one and the same time, thus falling between two stools. I made up my mind, however, that I could accomplish certain missions and that the issues involved in the world at that time, it was sometime before the last war, were far more important than any possible detrimental effect on my business. I would not, in my view, be true to myself if, so to speak, I played it safe. After a number of unpublicized assignments, I was summoned by President Roosevelt and accepted an appointment to come into the open as a presidential envoy on a special mission to certain Latin American countries. This first open mission was accomplished, and my subsequent public affairs activities did indeed affect my professional career, almost as predicted. So, immediately after the war years in the Navy, I managed to set myself still another objective, which was to repair the damaged fences of my private business and to keep on with public affairs as well. I fortunately succeeded in having my cake and eating it, with modifications, of course. But had I failed completely, I don't believe I would be too distressed. When I have a deep faith in an objective, the loyalty to it follows easily, and the effort leading toward it is not even noticeable. Because, as I believe in the pot at the end of the rainbow, it really doesn't matter if I ever get there. The fun of chasing it is reward enough for me.
That was Douglas Fairbanks, Jr., actor, writer, and public servant.
Crime does not pay.
Let's see. Enders, Esther... Oh, here she is. Audrey Eddings.
That's her, all right. Everything there?
Correspondence, her letters, carbons of your answers, her basic card, description, age, and financial condition. How did she tell you she loves you, Ronnie, darling?
Pretty warm. Not for your eyes, sweetheart.
You do trust me, don't you? Leaving all these files in my custody while you're traveling the circuit?
It looks like a wedding this trip, Nancy. Little Audrey is getting impatient. She wants a ceremony for her money.
What do I care how many of them you marry, darling, as long as you and their checks keep coming back to me.
In the interest of good citizenship and law enforcement, we present Crime Does Not Pay, based on the famous Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer series of short subjects. In just a moment, you will hear Beauty and the Beast, starring Everett Sloane. Now, Crime Does Not Pay, starring Everett Sloane as Ronnie Farrell in Beauty and the Beast. Ronnie Farrell was the kind of man many women seem to have a weakness for. Even Nancy Wood, his steady girl, would admit that. Still, Ronnie wasn't handsome. He wasn't big and tall and strong. In fact, Ronnie could give the impression, and very easily, that he needed care and a great deal of mothering. Ronnie gave that impression quite often. It was his business to do so. And as in most business operations, Ronnie's called for filing cabinets, clear, precise records, and the morning mail.
Oh, here, take this letter, Miss Wood.
Where to, the files or the wastebasket?
Active file, Miss Wood. Very active indeed. This one enclosed a $50 check. Ronnie, darling, I hope this will help toward the doctor bills. When will I see you again, sweetheart? In haste, but with all my love, Lucy.
I like the style of that. All the essentials, both love and money, and not one wasted word.
You're so right, darling. Ready for the answer?
Yes, sir, Mr. Farrell.
Let's see. Dear Lucykins. Oh, I checked that against her card in the file, Nancy. I think that's her special pet name, but there's another Lucy, so be sure and check.
And no kidding. Go on.
Make it Form 3A and put a copy in the file. Sign it the usual way.
Right. Next?
Next is Rebecca Andrews.
Remittance enclosed?
No, this one we're playing for a big haul, remember?
Oh, that Rebecca. How's the letter?
Well, I think, in fact, I'm sure, Rebecca is due for a visit. Put her on the route sheet for the next swing around the circuit.
So noted, boss.
And now, Audrey. Audrey Edding.
A remittance.
About half its usual size. Get Audrey's file, will you, dear?
Mm-hmm. Think there's trouble ahead?
Maybe.
Let's see. Enders, Esther. Here she is. Audrey Edding.
Oh, that's her, all right. Everything there?
Correspondence, her letters, carbons of your answers, her basic card, description, age, and financial condition. How did she tell you she loves you, Ronnie, darling?
Pretty warm. Not for your eyes, sweetheart.
You do trust me, don't you? Leaving all these files in my custody while you're traveling the circuit?
Looks like a wedding this trip, Nancy. Little Audrey is getting impatient. She wants a ceremony for her money.
What do I care how many of them you marry, darling, as long as you and their checks keep coming back to me.
Oh, well, we'll both keep coming back to you, darling. Don't you worry about that. Oh, let's have a look at that road map, hon.
Here you are. Which way around this time?
I think... Yes, this way. Yes, definitely. You see, Rebecca lives here and Audrey here. So I can drop in on Rebecca first and then wind up the trip with Audrey. The traveling salesman in person. And all I've got to sell is just my own poor self.
Another cream tonight, Ronald, dear?
No, thank you, Rebecca. Too much liquor isn't good for me.
You sure it isn't your heart, dear?
No, not that way. I have a different kind of heart trouble, Rebecca, darling.
Please, Ronald, don't say things you don't mean just because you know I'll be happy hearing them.
Rebecca, we've known each other how long now?
Over 2 years. Just a little over 2 years.
And you're not an unattractive woman, correct?
I hope so, Ronald.
And forgive me for being blunt, my dear, but have I ever even tried to put a hand on you?
That's true. You haven't.
Does that mean anything, dear? Nothing at all?
It could mean several things.
For instance?
That you don't think I'm worth it.
Don't even say that. Don't even think it. You're a very exciting woman, you know that.
Or you could feel only respect.
No, that's not true either. You know by now that I'd marry you in a minute. If it was possible.
Why isn't it possible?
I'd rather not discuss that.
You're not married, are you, Ronald?
No. Would I be married and speak to you like this, feeling as I do?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Why do you hesitate, Ronald?
You really want me to tell you?
Yes, I do.
All right, then. It's because I couldn't support you the way you should be supported. Not even in the style to which you're accustomed right now.
Then it's only my money.
Only money?
Ronald, if you had sufficient capital to salve your foolish pride, would...
I wouldn't hesitate for one moment.
Ronnie, dear, when you come back from your next trip, you and I will visit my lawyer.
Lawyer? What for?
They'll have the papers ready. I'll make you a settlement, my dear. And after that...
After that, it'll be Mr. and Mrs. Ronald Farrell. That's for sure, my sweet. That's for sure. Well, lady, what's your wish tonight?
Why, Ronnie, have you seen the first star?
Oh, Audrey, my love, when I have your eyes to look at...
Never mind that. Look at the road, darling, and we'll both wind up in the ditch.
Ah, love in a ditch with you.
Ronnie?
Yes, Audrey, darling?
When you make chit-chat like this, you're either evading something or stalling for time. Which is it?
You know me rather well, don't you?
Stop it, darling, and answer my question. Which is it?
You win, sweetheart. I'm stalling.
Why?
Because I'm trying to find out the answer to a question without asking the question.
A question? For instance, how long am I going to put up with your answer?
Audrey.
That's a pretty good question, you know, darling. After all, I've been, shall we say, contributing to your income for several months. I think I made it clear the last time that this won't go on forever.
Audrey, please, this sort of
Let's
talk...
be frank, Ronnie, darling. I'm not as young as some, nor as attractive. That goes for you, too, you know. Together, we'd probably be decently happy. That's the sum of it.
A perfect statement, and at the perfect moment. Also, an answer to my unasked question.
Ronnie, where are you stopping? Why here?
For several reasons. Audrey, you just said you wanted to marry me, haven't you?
I suppose I have.
That answers my question. Now then, just a few yards up the road, you see that gate and the sign?
Stop the mystery, Ronnie.
No, answer the question, please.
Of course I see them. I can't read the sign, though. Not in this moonlight.
Well, come along, then. Let's walk up to where it will be readable. No, stay there, darling. At a moment like this, let me at least come round and open the door for you.
All right, Sir Walter Raleigh. For goodness sake, get it done with.
Your Majesty, if you will but alight.
Thank you, kind sir. All right, now. With the heels I'm wearing, more than 50 yards on this road will be plain murder.
No need to worry. I just didn't want to block the driveway. That's why I parked back there.
It is quiet, though. And the moonlight on that thing. I ought to know better, Ronnie, but, well, I'm just incurably romantic.
Okay, Audrey, darling. Now, can you read the sign?
I guess so. David Pierce, Justice of the Peace. Ronnie. Oh, Ronnie.
That's right, sweet. And he's expecting us. Will you join me in a wedding, Miss Evie? Nancy, you home, Nancy?
Am I home, Ronnie? Oh, Ronnie, I'm beginning to miss you on these jaunts you take. I really am.
Company propaganda affecting you, Nancy?
Maybe. Papa bring home the bacon?
Papa brought home a copy of the paper. Better than bacon.
Ronnie, you did marry her.
Yeah, I did that.
Which one?
Audrey, according to plan.
What, no honeymoon?
Oh, sure, we had that. A weekend. And then poor Ronnie had to go right back to work. The life of a traveling salesman is tough, Nancy. Real tough.
You received a small communication while you were away, dear.
So? You open it?
I opened the telegrams, dear, remember? It's the letters you reserve for your eyes alone.
Where?
Oh, in here on the desk. How do you explain a husband's absences from home? Not as easy as a fiancé's.
Oh, Audrey believes me. Now that I'm married to her and have my dower right in 1/3 of her property, she believes everything I tell her. She's quite a beautiful little wife. Is this the wire?
Uh-huh. See? Settlement papers all drawn, awaiting your return. Hurry, my darling. Love, Rebecca.
She really did it.
You didn't think she would? A large settlement?
I expect so.
And you had to go and marry the other one.
Look, remember what you said before this last trip, Nancy? You don't care how many I marry as long as I come back to you?
Ronnie, you wouldn't dare.
Wouldn't I? Why not? Who'll ever know? And when it's all done, we'll have them both in the bag, darling. We'll have their dough, both of them. And they'll have some beautiful memories. A fair exchange, I'd say. A fair exchange.
In just a moment, Crime Does Not Pay will continue with Beauty and the Beast. Now we continue with Crime Does Not Pay, starring Everett Sloane as Ronnie Farrell in Beauty and the Beast. Just as Ronnie Farrell liked to express it, everything went according to plan. Ronnie kissed Nancy goodbye, temporarily, of course, and joined Rebecca in matrimony, not neglecting to visit several of his numerous other fiancées along the route. And most important, not neglecting to obtain the settlement from Rebecca before the final ceremony was performed. And then, much to Ronnie's surprise, Rebecca seemed to change a little.
Rebecca.
Yes, dear?
You know, it's 2 weeks now since I did a lick of work. Don't you think it's high time I started on my next trip?
I've told you, dear, you don't have to work so hard anymore.
Yes, but, well, I like my work. I enjoy it.
Don't you enjoy being with me?
Oh, yes, but a man can't just, idle his life away.
You have money now, Ronnie, dear. A nice sum. Why not enjoy it?
But I feel so useless. I want to be out and traveling.
Are you sure you don't want just to be out and traveling away from me?
Rebecca.
Why don't you answer my question, darling?
Well, of course I don't want to be away from you.
Ronnie.
Yes, dear?
You're a liar, darling.
Rebecca.
I knew from the beginning I couldn't hold you, but I thought it would be longer than 2 weeks.
But, my dear...
No, don't say anything. Let me finish. You're bored and restless with your small-town wife. You have money now, my money, but no place to spend it. And you never think of spending it on me. You haven't even bought me a wedding present. You kissed me as if I were the maid and you snatched the kiss behind the kitchen door. You're charming, Ronnie, but you're a rotten liar. You don't love me, and I don't believe you ever loved me.
Rebecca, of all the silly, hysterical, foolish things
so
to say...
So silly and hysterical. You didn't say that 2 months ago.
I said a lot of things then. You want to review them, dearest?
No, I don't. But I think I will ask my lawyer to review that settlement. I thought I bought myself a loving husband, not a sneering...
That's about all I'll take, Mrs. Farrell. This whole argument started when I said I wanted to get back to work.
In order to get away from me.
In order not to be lazy and wasteful. You can't make up your mind what you want, a lapdog or a husband. And until you do make up your mind, don't expect to find me around this house.
Ronnie, where are you going? You haven't finished your breakfast.
I'm going out. And don't expect me back for some time.
Ronnie, come back. Come back. No, I won't scream. I won't. I'll get him back. I will.
You want me ordered here?
Almost ready to go.
In a minute. Finishing my coffee. Oh, darling, you look lovely today.
Only today?
Always. And your coffee is excellent.
Then why don't you drink more of it?
Why don't I?
Yes, dear. Why aren't you around with your loving wife more often? Sit down, dear.
Yes, dear.
Of course, there's one advantage to having a husband who's away as much as you are. We don't get a chance to be bored with each other, do we?
No, we certainly don't.
And then there's the other side of the picture, too. While the master's away, who knows? Back door this time in the morning. I'll get it, dear. Finish your coffee.
Yeah, thanks, dear. Mm-hmm.
How do you do?
Mm-hmm.
My name is Mrs. Ronnie Farrell. Well, what? Now, Now, may I have your name again? There's no need for you to be frightened, you know. I said my name is Mrs. Ronald Farrell. But I'm Mrs. Ronald Farrell.
Oh, no. Oh, she couldn't have.
He's here. I followed him yesterday. I didn't get up the courage until today. I came to the back door.
While I get out the front door. Ronnie, my boy, make yourself plenty scarce and fast. Oh, Nancy, hon. That I would like to have seen when those two biddies came into Audrey's dining room and found the bird had flown.
You're something of a stinker, aren't you, darling?
Well, I'm not in this business, dear, for anybody's health except my own.
You know, darling, I think I'm beginning to like your wives from what you told me about them and what I found in your confidential files.
You like them? You read those files?
Oh, Ronnie, please, you're not that naive. You didn't really think I stayed away from those letters, did you?
No, I suppose I didn't, really.
So, from what I know about Rebecca and Audrey, I rather like them. Rebecca's sweet in her way.
No.
And Audrey has a kind of whimsy overlaid on a sentimental wisdom.
Well, what's all this leading up to, Nancy?
That I think you're something of a louse, Ronnie, dear.
Well, this we've known for a long time.
And I don't trust you one little bit. So now that you're a bigamist, and I have letters from your wives to prove it, and I know where your wives are and can reach them any time.
What are you driving at, Nancy?
Money, darling, lots of money. Which you're going to get for Nancy by going back to Rebecca and Audrey, using your charm to get their forgiveness and their bankrolls.
I can't. I won't.
Bigamy's roughly 10 to 20 years in this state, darling. I looked it up.
But you've always shared with me, Nancy.
Yes, dear. And now I'll let you have a salary and a small cut of the profit. I'm running the show now, darling, so on your way, salesman. Let's see how you like to crawl for your life, Casanova.
Rebecca, it's me, Ronnie. Open the door, dear. I'm back. Rebecca!
Nobody home there, mister. Nobody been there for days.
Oh, well, I'm Mr. Farrell. Remember me?
Yeah, I know your face, I guess. She ain't there. No use knocking.
Well, didn't she leave any word for me?
Not for you nor nobody. Not even the milkman. I turned off the milk for her myself. I seen she was staying away for a bit. You need her bad. Why don't you see your lawyers? They ought to know where she is. Audrey! Anybody home? Looking for Miss Eddie, mister? Hey, you're the fella she married. I saw you once on the front porch.
Yes, I'm her husband. Has she been gone long? I lost my key. I can't get in.
Oh, I can tell you're not married long. My husband climbed right through the dining room window. Not that I'd be out when he came home.
Look, do you have any idea where my wife has gone?
I wouldn't bet, Mr. Farrell. I'm a great one for minding nobody's business but my own. Still, I don't mind telling you that for the past few days another woman's been living with her. Woman that cried a lot. The two of them looked so grim you'd think they was heading for an execution or somebody's funeral or something.
I told you, Ronnie, you don't get in. Not until you show me they've forgiven you. Greenback forgiveness.
This is my apartment, Nancy. I want in.
Oh, no, you don't. I'm holding the fort and the mail. Checks included.
Cut it out, Nancy. I'm warning you.
And when the checks stop, what the Sunday supplements will pay for this story, with letters attached. An active file of 500 gals, all contributors. I had no idea your territory was so wide until I checked the file.
I'm coming in.
Stop it, Ronnie. I'm shutting the door.
I said I'm coming in. Yeah. In fact, I am in.
So what? You're in. Okay.
Now, Miss Nancy Wood, let's begin at the beginning.
That was a long time ago.
Was it? Seems like just yesterday. Sit down, Miss Wood.
I'll stand.
I said sit down.
I won't.
Sit down.
Where do you think this gets you? You think I'll keep quiet when I...
Once you get out of here... You really think you will get out of here, Nancy, dear?
Ronnie.
I often wondered these past few days what you'd sound like on the receiving end of the beating you deserve.
I deserve. Ronnie, no. Don't touch me. No! Don't touch me, I said.
Somebody should have done this. Yeah.
Oh, let go. My throat, but...
You were beautiful, weren't you? But you'll die easy. Easy.
Oh.
Yes. They'll all die. Easy.
Not
What?
too easily, Ronnie. Now we'll have you for murder as well as bigamy.
All right. Rebecca.
Ronald, I never thought you'd really kill that girl.
Just let me get my hands on
Don't
you.
move, Ronnie. I couldn't possibly miss at this distance unless I want to.
No, don't shoot. Shoot, please don't shoot.
Use the phone, will you, Rebecca? Like we planned. Call the police. Yes, of course I'll do it.
No, let me go. I'll give you back.
Our self-respect? You couldn't. The only way we could get that back is to take you in ourselves. But we didn't expect to take a killer. Sit down, Mr. Farrell. The Mrs. Farrells will keep you company for a while. Please? This is Miss Rebecca Andrews. Please come at once. I'm holding my husband for you. He's just committed murder as well as bigamy.
Crime does not pay. Everett Sloan, who was starred as Ronnie Farrell in Beauty and the Beast, will be back with you in just a moment. Now, here in person is Everett Sloan.
It's customary at the close of this program to point a moral. Well, looking back at Ronnie Farrell and his kind of man, of which there are too many in this world, I think a word is called for to the nice, decent, unsuspecting women who pay in self-respect as well as in money when crimes like Ronnie's come to light. True, loneliness and emotions take command at times when the head ought to rule the heart. It's the old story of look before you leap and think first before you act. More, if you'll think about this type of crime and criminal for a moment, you'll see, I'm sure, to what a great extent it's true that for the sinned against, as well as for the sinner, crime does not pay.
Thank you, Mr. Sloan. Crime Does Not Pay is written by Ira Marion and directed by Mark B. Lowe, with music composed and conducted by John Gart. Technical advisor is Burton B. Turkis. The events, characters, and names used in the story you've just heard are fictitious. Any similarity is purely coincidental.
This I believe. The world is riven by national frontiers, but there is no limit to the sweep and penetration of a free man's inquiring mind. One of America's leading sociologists, Dr. Charles S. Johnson, president of Fisk University, has explored people beyond the boundaries of race and creed. Not yet 60, he has written 17 books, most of them on the Negro, and has served humanity on assignments ranging from the Mark Twain Society to the United Nations. For the personal philosophy sustaining such enormous endeavor, listen now to Dr. Johnson.
My father's father was a slave, and my father was a devoutly religious Baptist minister. He had both the will and a way of translating his religious convictions into useful and pioneering social action. Religion is most real to those who feel the need for comfort and refuge beyond the gift of man. There is a transporting beauty welling up from deep flowing rivers of sorrow, which touches the buried springs of all human life, in the religious expression of the slave and the newly free. I'm certain that man is made both good and bad by his institutions. These institutions are responsible for the shaping of our personalities, our morals, and the patterns of our social relations. The reshaping of our institutions, guided by the highest ideals of religious conviction, is our responsibility. This explains why, in the logic of my life, I can take an unequivocal point of view regarding inequalities. It is my belief that while there are inequalities in personal gifts, there's no justification for the inequality in social and economic environment. Years ago, as a college boy in Richmond, Virginia, I had a job investigating needy applicants for Christmas baskets. This opportunity led me into amazing paths of discovery and awakening. It gave me a lasting conviction which became the core of all that I can recognize as a social philosophy. This was simply that no man can be justly judged until you've looked at the world through his eyes. It carried over to children classed as delinquents, to the impoverished tobacco workers of the city, and to men in prison. It carried over to the humble people who made up the families of the left side of the tracks. This insight was channeled into my work with the Negro migrants, moving in millions in a current too vast for them to comprehend, and into each successive human problem that has become a part of my experience, whether in the South, or in the cities of the North, or in Africa, or Haiti, or in Japan. What life means to me is something constantly in process of reconstruction, a reconstruction made necessary by ever-shifting scenes and situations, but which, I hope, draws nourishment from each difficult contact with life. Life, to me, is an endless challenge, a challenge imposed by the forces of nature and social life itself. But I like to feel that it is the spiritual life of the world which is the greatest bulwark against the threatening tides of worldliness, greed, and insensitiveness to the needs and desires of man. Some people call that spiritual life nature, and some call it God.
That was Fisk University's president, Charles S. Johnson of Nashville, Tennessee. Scholar, educator, social scientist, but most of all, a citizen with a simple, moving faith.
Calling all detectives. A private detective like me, Jerry Browning, has this in common with a doctor. A lot of the work he does is for free. I straightened up in my seat as white-haired Judge Eli Whitney Rockmore took his place. A moment later, the jury filed back in and handed down the decision I was sure they would. We, the jury, find the defendant, Robert Heil, guilty as charged. In his chambers, and with his judicial robe tossed over the back of the chair, Judge Eli Whitney Rockmore looked like just what he was, a very tired old man who had seen far more than his share of human suffering.
Were you able to get any of the information I wanted, Jerry?
I nodded. Yes, I did, sir, but I don't think you're going to like it. The judge smiled wryly.
You mean this boy, Heil, is really guilty?
I hated to say it, but I had to. I located 2 witnesses who saw Heil walk into the gas station, and that the state's attorney never got around to calling because he didn't need them. Furthermore, just about a year ago, Bob Heil's brother was killed while attempting very much the same kind of holdup. I paused. You want me to go on? Judge Rockmore shook his head.
No, I'm afraid that's enough. I have no choice but to pass sentence on this boy. But just the same, Jerry, if he's guilty, then I've learned nothing in my 35 years on the bench.
In spite of the overwhelming evidence against a prisoner, old Judge Rockmore did not think he was guilty.
Robert Heil, this court sentences you to serve a period of not less than 5 years, nor more than 10 years at hard labor. The court is adjourned.
Well, that should have been the end of it. But when a man like Judge Rockmore, who spent 35 years on the bench, tells me that he thinks he's sentencing an innocent man, then my conscience begins to nag me. I had a long talk with Warden Hazelton, who told me,
I would say that Bob Heil's an average prisoner, Mr. Browning. He's not asked for any special favors, except to be transferred from the laundry to the tailor shop.
How does he get along with the other prisoners, Warden? The warden shrugged.
Quite well. He's been making friends of some hardened criminals, I'm sorry to say. Why do you ask these questions, Mr. Browning?
I shrugged. I wish I knew, Warden. There's something peculiar about Heil, and I thought maybe up here I could find out what it was. But I guess I was wrong. When I got back to town, I went to see Judge Rockmore at his home, told him about my visit to the pen. He listened silently, nodded his head a few times. When I'd finished,
Jerry, you mentioned that Heil's brother had been killed while attempting a similar holdup. What do you know about that case?
Not too much, sir. His brother was one of 3 men who held up a big gas station, killed an attendant. Police came up as they were making a getaway. Heil's brother was shot and killed. He drove the getaway car and shot the attendant, according to the other 2. Judge Rockmore nodded.
Where are these others now?
Judge, I'm afraid they're at the penitentiary, and I think there's going to be more murder. Judge Rockmore had warned me not to say or do anything more, and I didn't for about a week. Then I couldn't stand it any longer, called Warden Hazelton at the pen. What I heard almost knocked me out of my chair. A few hours earlier, 3 men had escaped. They were Bob Heil, Joe Marsh, and Fred Reedon, the 2 men who had participated in the holdup with Bob's brother. All 3 had worked in the tailor shop and escaped by slugging a guard and stealing a truck. The men had last been seen heading for town. The story made big headlines, and the way the newspapers told it, Bob Heil deliberately went to jail in order to help his brother's gang escape. It didn't make much sense to me. But then nothing about Heil had made any sense right from the start. Then, a week after the escape, I got a call from Judge Rockmore to come over to his house at once. I found Judge Rockmore alone in his study.
Sit down, Jerry. I want to ask you a question. Suppose you were a young, unemployed ex-soldier. You drove into a gas station, and as you did, 2 men jumped into your car, held a gun to your head, and told you to start driving. What would you do?
I guess I'd start driving, Judge.
And suppose that these 2 men realized that capture was inevitable, that one of them had committed a murder, that it was necessary to sacrifice somebody in order to save their own lives. If they killed you and swore that you were not only their accomplice, but guilty of murder as well, who could possibly prove the contrary?
I put my hand in my pocket, felt the reassuring touch of my revolver. Judge, where is Bob Heil? The judge stood up.
Take your hand out of your pocket, Jerry. Bob, come in here.
Bob Heil walked into the room, stood facing me.
Tell him, Bob.
The boy turned to me.
I knew my brother wasn't involved in that hold-up or killing. He just wasn't that kind of person. I thought if I could get at the 2 men, become their friend, sooner or later I'd learn the truth.
I shook my head. It's no use, Heil. Maybe you're telling the truth, maybe not. It makes no difference. You're a con now, an escaped con, which is worse. Where are Marsh and Reedon?
They're holed up in a little shack not far from here. I go out every night for food. They're too frightened to step out of the place.
He smiled at the judge, who smiled back. An awful thought began to form at the back of my head. Wait a second. You made friends with these 2 men, and the 3 of you walked out of the state pen just by slugging a guard and stealing a truck. The walls are 18 feet high. They've got 62 searchlights and 118 guards. I turned to the judge. Judge Rockmore, how could you do this to me?
Jerry, it was the only chance to clear an innocent man's name and to catch his murderers. After you came back from the penitentiary and told me that Bob had applied for a transfer to the tailor shop, I drew my own conclusions and was in communication with Warden Hazelton. We arranged the jailbreak with Bob, and I even provided the hideaway place and the necessary recording apparatus to take down conversations. This evening they confessed to Bob, and nothing now remains except to retake them. The judge grinned at me. In gratitude for your share in the case, you may have the honor of recapturing them, if you wish. I took a deep breath. Judge, I think you're a terrific guy. One of the greatest I've ever known. And all I have to say is that let us now please phone for 3 or 4 carloads of cops. And that was the end of it. Like I said, another thing that a detective has in common with a doctor is that people are always holding out information on both of them.
Listen next time to Calling All Detectives. Mystery drama, mystery quiz, and a chance for you to match wits with yours truly, Jerry Browning, Private Detective.
Murder at midnight.
Listen, do you hear them? Do you hear the bells?
Bells? I don't hear any bells, mister.
Well, I tell you, they're ringing.
Look, mister, the heat's got you. Oh, you're in the middle of the desert right now. There ain't any bells within 100 miles of here.
But there must be. There has to be. Murderer! No! No!
Midnight, the witching hour when the night is darkest, our fears are strongest, and our strength at its lowest ebb. Midnight, when the graves gape open and the death strikes. How? You'll learn the answer in just a minute in Death Tolls a Requiem.
And now, Murder at Midnight. Tales of mystery and terror by radio's masters of the macabre. Our story by Max Ehrlich is Death Tolls a Requiem.
I came into the room and quietly closed the door behind me. It was alone, ready and waiting for death. The curtains were drawn, blotting out the bright afternoon sunlight. The air was hot and stifling. The silence oppressive and unearthly. I stared down at the face of the old man in the bed. The old man I hated. His eyes were closed, 2 sunken shadows against the white wrinkled skin. His waxen hands hung limply over the coverlet. For 3 days he'd lingered while I'd waited for him to die. Now for a moment I thought, but no, his pale lips moved. How are you feeling, Father?
I've not long to go, my son. Not long. It's only the bells that keep me alive.
The bells?
Yes. Over there in the tower. I lie here and wait to hear them. They seem to rally me. I live for the sound of them, Father.
Yes, Father?
What time is it?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Peter must be there now. There in the tower, pulling on the rope, starting them swinging. The Fedwick bells, Arthur. There they are, my son. Listen to them. Your inheritance. Listen to them ring. Oh, what music they make. What beautiful, vibrant music. They give me the strength, the will to live a little longer.
How I hated him, the sentimental old fool, my father. He'd spent $500,000 to bring those bells over from Pedwick, England, the place of his birth. And with them he'd brought the bell tower, brick by brick, and the English bell ringer, Peter Griggs. $500,000, my inheritance, hung in that bell tower.
There was no money left, nothing. My father had lost everything, left me nothing. Nothing but those accursed bells. Ding dong, ding dong. They seemed to mock me, taunt me, jeer at me. I hated the very sound of them. But the old fool in the bed babbled on.
Oh, my son, those bells bring back the past to me. When I was a boy in Frederick, I heard them pull out the hour, every hour. I married your mother to the sound of those blessed bells. And I buried her to the sound of them.
Stop raving about those bells.
What?
Stop it.
There's evil in your face. Evil.
You cheated me out of my inheritance, left me penniless. You cheated me, do you hear? Listen to the bells. Yes, I know. Can't you hear them jeering at me, mocking at me? You're penniless, they say. Penniless. Penniless. Die. 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 You bought those bells, now let them ring your requiem. Stopped finally. My father lay there, dead. I turned from his white, still face and half walked, half stumbled toward the bell tower across the grounds of our estate. Something stronger than myself drew me to it. I entered the tower and stared up into the gloomy belfry. Yes, there they were, the bells, gleaming dimly in the half-light, their bronze mouths yawning down at me. And then as I stared up at them, I heard a step behind me. Oh, who's there?
It's only me, Mr. Brooks. It's only Peter.
Oh, I didn't see you standing there in the shadow.
So you've come in to look at my little brood, eh? You've come to admire my 3 children.
Yes.
Ah, Mr. Brooks, in all the world there are no finer bells than my wee babies. It was none other than Christopher Hodgson himself who cast them in the 17th century. Aye, the master himself. My father rung him, and his father before him, and his father before him.
And these are the bells my father paid $500,000 for.
Aye, and he got them cheap, sir. These are historic bells, known to all of England. And the folk of Old Pedwick parted with them hard. They gave them as a gift, you might say. Your father gave the town an orphan asylum and a hospital. And now he has the bells.
And now they'll hang up there forever.
Aye, and 'tis well, for they're in good hands. Your father is of Old Pedwick, sir, and like me, he loves the bells and knows what they say when they talk.
Peter, my father will never hear the bells again.
What do you mean by that, sir?
He died 15 minutes ago.
Hmm? Oh, Mr. Brooks, he's dead?
Yes.
Oh. Dust we are, and to dust we shall return. So it is written, and so shall it be. Oh, he was a fine man, sir.
Thank you, Peter.
Oh, me and my children up there, we'll miss him. Aye, we'll miss him so. Oh, little Davy, Big George, oh, my beautiful Betty, my pretty husband, you hear? The master is dead.
You call the bells by names? You talk to them?
I like a father to his children, and they talk to me.
They talk to you. The bells talk to you.
Why not? They have phones, and they have hearts and souls. Come, my baby, the good master is dead. Come, little Davy, cry that night. Come, Big George, awake! Cry, my father. Weep, my winsome Betty. Weep, weep. The master is dead. Sing a sad song, my lady one of the lost one. Higher and higher. Weep, weep, my baby. Pour out your tears. Cry out to the countryside. The master is dead.
What's happening? If he pulled one rope, then another. I looked up at them as they swayed, and their mouths seemed to accuse me of my father's death. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand it any longer. I turned and ran from the bell tower. After my father's funeral, I dropped in at the office of Frederick Denny, my father's attorney and executor of what was left of the estate. There were certain things I wanted to discuss.
So you want to tear down the Brook Memorial Tower and sell the bells?
Yes, Mr. Denny. From what my father told me, they have considerable value.
Yes, Arthur, they do. Their intrinsic value, aside from their worth as historic relics and antiques, runs into hundreds of thousands. I've already had 2 offers of purchase.
You have?
Yes. One from a university, one from a museum.
Good.
However, the bells are not for sale.
What? Mr. Denny, you know the condition of the estate. Why, I'm penniless. Dad left me nothing. Nothing. Unless I can realize something from the bells.
I'm sorry, Arthur, but the terms of your father's will are quite specific.
Then I'll break the will. I'm my father's rightful heir, and whatever I can sell those bells for belongs to me.
I'm sorry, my boy. I drew up this will myself, and I can assure you it's airtight.
There was nothing I could do. Nothing. I was beaten and I knew it. And day after day, night after night, every hour on the hour, I heard those blasted bells. Ding dong, ding dong. They mocked me, taunted me, jeered at me, laughed at me. Huh? They seem to talk to me. They talked to Peter the bell ringer, and now they talk to me. Mocked me every hour on the hour. Oh, I hated them, cursed them, blocked my ears against them, but they kept on ringing and ringing and ringing until I thought I'd go mad. Finally, I could stand it no longer. I had to silence those hateful bells once and for all. I had to still their cursed tongues forever. That night late, I went to the bell tower, fevered, in a kind of frenzy, determined to blot out their voices somehow. I entered the bell tower. Peter was there, ringing the bells. Peter! Stop ringing those bells! Stop it, I say!
Huh? Stop the bells?
Yes, now! Now, do you hear?
Oh, no, I will not. There's evil in your face. You don't like the bells like your father. You hate my little children. You mean them harm.
I told you to stop those bells. I'll make you stop.
Wait, Mr. Bill, what are you doing? No. You're joking me.
Never ring those cursed bells again. I have to. One end of the bell ropes around his neck and gave him a long push. Back and forth. Back and forth. He swung in the bell tower like a grotesque pendulum, the rope cruising under his weight. Well, little Davy up there, Big George, pretty Betty, why don't you talk now, eh? Why don't you talk now?
The man going mad with the sound of the bells, shaking his fist and laughing at his bronze torches, as he stopped them from striking 12 for
murder at midnight.
And now, here is Arthur Brooke again, continuing his story.
investigation of Peter's death. The county medical examiner and I went to the bell tower and looked at the bell rope on which Peter's body had been found.
The way I see it, Mr. Brooks, it's a clear case of suicide. The deceased fastened this rope around his neck, climbed up on the belfry ladder, and flung himself out into space.
Yes, Mr. Holcomb, it looks as though he did just that.
Mr. Brooks, there's one question I want to ask you.
What is it?
A man usually doesn't commit suicide unless he has a motive. Did you notice anything peculiar about this Beldringer's behavior before this happened?
Why, no, nothing except that he was deeply depressed when my father died. You see, my father loved the bells as much as Peter did, and...
that might account for it. What I understand, this English Beldringer was rather a queer duck anyway.
What's that?
What?
Mr. Holcomb, the bells. They're ringing. Oh,
Take it easy, Mr. Brooks. Take it easy. The tower door is open and wind just came through. Made the bells tinkle a little.
Oh, yes, of course. It was the wind. I'm sorry.
That's all right, Mr. Brooks. After what you've been through, I don't blame you for being jumpy.
Finally, the verdict was official. Suicide. And for 2 weeks, the bell tower was closed and the bells silent. It was then that I had an idea. I went straight to the executor of my father's estate, Mr. Denny, and told him what was in my mind.
Arthur, I'm sorry, but what you asked is impossible. We can't take those bells down.
But, Mr. Denny, you've read the papers. This bell ringer's suicide has made a mockery out of the tower. All the cheap publicity in the newspapers, the sensationalism, the people coming to stare at the bells. Why, I feel that my father's memory is being desecrated.
I know, Arthur. The whole thing's been very unfortunate, but we cannot let you tear down the tower and sell the bells, as you know.
Yes, I know. The will, my father's will.
Precisely. And his last wish must be respected.
Very well, let the bells stay. But for the love of heaven, Mr. Denny, can they remain silent? Must they ring any more to remind everyone in town of the tragedy?
Your father specified that they must be rung on the hour, every hour, just as they did in England. And that's the way it'll have to be, Arthur. We're already negotiating for a new bell ringer.
Mr. Denny, listen, do you hear them?
Hear what?
No. Yes, can't you hear them? You must hear them, Mr. Denny, you must.
Oh, yes, I do now, very faintly. Your sense of hearing, Arthur, is remarkably acute. Those bells are from the next town, Silver Valley. Sometimes you can hear them here when the wind's right.
Oh, why don't they stop? Why don't they stop talking?
Talking? Talking? What do you mean?
Nothing.
Look here, Arthur, something's wrong. You're on edge. Feel it. Why don't you go away for a good long rest? Say a month or so. It'll do you good.
Go away? Yes, why not? Rest. That's what I need. Rest and quiet. Away from the bells. There was a Principally I knew in the mountains, 100 miles away. The food was good, and the golf course nearby. Well, I made reservations. For a week I ate, slept, played golf, rested. And then one afternoon I was in the lobby of the inn, chatting with the proprietor.
Glad you're staying here, Mr. Brooks.
Oh, yes, sir. Fine.
Well, you've been lucky in the weather. I never did see such nice weather, right?
Frank. What's that?
What's what?
You're here? Bells.
Bells? Of course I do. Yes, the first danger to nice rain.
But why are they ringing?
Look what's come over you. It's thundering. That's
Frank.
it.
Frank, I'm checking out.
Checking out? Now. But, Miss Brooks, you made reservations for a month.
I'm leaving now, do you hear? Right away, just as soon as I can get my bags packed. The bells. I had to get away from the bells. That was it. That was all I needed. I remember the place when I went when I was a boy. An island off the seacoast. There was an old fisherman there, a friend of mine, and I knew he'd put me up. The place was miles from anything, from the mainland, from bells. I took a train, started a small boat, and spent 3 quiet days there. Then, on the 4th day, as we were surf casting to strike back.
All right, Mr. Brooks, let's see you cast way out into the surf. Nice long one that was. Now, if a striper just hooked onto that bait of yours, why, you're going... What is it, Miss Brooks?
I hear bells.
Bells? Why, sure you do. The Coast Guard's testing a new bellboy out on those reefs over there. Oh, what's wrong, Mr. Brooks? You're as white as a sheet. I've got to get away from here. I've got to get away. Bells. Everywhere I went, they pursued me, ringing their accusations in my ears. I left me on the gun in my car, drove. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't care. I just had to get away from those bells. And then, some days later, I was driving through a desert area in the southwest. I was deep in the desert, reeling off mile after mile on the highway when suddenly from far off I heard bells. I set my teeth, gripped the steering wheel tight. Enough was enough. I'd fight them now. Fight them to the bitter end. I wouldn't let them master me, tear me apart, drive me mad. No! I had to beat them, and I'd do it now! I drove on and on and on, and the bells followed me. They must come from a train running parallel to the highway somewhere over the river of desert. Yes, it must be a train. It couldn't be anything else. Mile after mile I drove, and mile after mile the bells followed me. I began to wonder, when would the tracks cross the highway? Tracks always cross highways somewhere. They just didn't run parallel indefinitely. And then up ahead, I saw some trucks and men. It was a construction crew fixing the road. I stopped the car and hailed the foreman.
What is it, mister?
Doesn't the train cross the highway somewhere up ahead?
Train? What train? There's no railroad in this area of the desert.
But there must be. I hear train bells.
Bells? I don't hear any bells, mister.
Well, I tell you, they're ringing.
Look, mister, you must have sunstroke or something. There ain't no train within 100 miles of here.
But there
no
must
bells
be.
either.
There must be. There has to be. No. Now I knew what I had to do. I had to go back to the estate, back to the Bush Memorial Tower, and destroy the accursed bells I'd inherited. I had to close their bronze mouths, pull out their wagging tongues, smash their glittering faces. They had possession of me. They were driving me out of my mind. I had to free myself of them once and for all. Only then would I be at peace. I headed for home. And every mile, every hour, the bells pursued me, ringing in my ears, day and night, pounding and relentless. Oh! Back at the estate, I went to the garden schoolhouse. Picked out a heavy sledgehammer, headed toward the bell tower. The car was just coming up the driveway. It looked like Jenny's, but I paid no attention. I ran into the bell tower and climbed the ladder into the belfry. Now is the time. There was a bell leering at me, grinning at me. I'd smash them now and forever. I lifted the sledgehammer and brought it down to the first bit. I'll smash it a bit. Why don't you break? Arthur! What are you doing? What's there in the belfry? I'll crack them. I'll break them into 1,000 pieces. It's the last thing I do! Arthur! You stop, man! Stop it, I say! Stop it! Why don't they stop ringing? Why don't they stop? No! Don't say it anymore! I can't stand it any longer! I can't!
Williams, I must compliment you on this gentle institution of yours. You run very efficiently. One of the finest in the state.
Thank you, Professor.
Oh, and by the way, it must be close to midnight. I didn't expect to stay here this late, but it would be so interesting. What is the time, anyway?
Well, I don't have a watch on me, Professor, but... just a second. Listen.
The bells. There they go again. There they go. Can't you hear them? Stop them.
The time now, Professor Alvin, is exactly midnight.
How do you know that, Doctor?
That patient you just heard, Professor, the one who just cried aloud, is a very remarkable case. A human timepiece. He has no watch, of course, but every hour, on the hour, he hears bells.
He hears bells every hour, on the hour?
Precisely, Professor Alvin. And he's never more than a second or two out of the way.
Bed in a padded cell and hear the bells ringing every hour on the hour. Just as he once heard the real bells strike 12 for
murder at midnight.
for
Murder at Midnight.
The part of Arthur Brooks was played by Michael Fitzmaurice. With music by Bert Berman, Murder at Midnight was directed by Anton M. Leader.
This, I believe. This is the air age, a time of breathless and, I'm afraid, often aimless motion. Dr. Fred Dow Fagg, president of the University of Southern California, is a leader in the field of aviation, as well as in education. But he has kept his feet on the very firm ground of the principles he now states.
The view of the high Sierra Lake, nestled in the snow and rock, slightly below the timberline, was beautiful from my vantage point some 500 feet above its shimmering surface. I was anxious to rejoin my companions and try the fishing before the afternoon shadows, edging out from the surrounding array of peaks, entirely covered the lake. Just a short distance beyond the intervening shale, the trail zigzagged down to the valley. I disliked the thought of returning by the long, tedious trail I had ascended, and decided to chance the shale, even though part of it lay above a sheer drop-off of several hundred feet. I started working my way over the loose rock with considerable caution, and had covered about half the distance when I became aware of a slight but persistent yielding of the shale under my feet. Desperately, I looked for something that would offer support, and lurched forward to grasp a slight outcropping of solid rock, just as the surface shale underfoot, loosened from its foundation by the warm noonday sun, cascaded downward and disappeared over the cliff. Several seconds passed before I heard it rattle into the lake. Finally, after due consideration of the folly of shortcuts, I managed to move from handhold to handhold, and at last pulled myself to the trail by the aid of a dwarf juniper root. I have forgotten how many trout I caught that afternoon, but I have not forgotten the value of a handhold. Handholds are needed also during the course of everyday life. They provide security when the things we depend on seem to be slipping out from under us. What are the spiritual handholds I have found to be of most value? First, the teachings of the humble carpenter of Nazareth, for their insistence on the supreme worth of the individual, for their stressing of the significance of sympathetic understanding, and for their unsurpassed evidence of dauntless faith. Second, the conviction that while every person should delight in making a courageous and self-reliant effort to live up to his capabilities, there are well springs of power outside himself that can be tapped if he will but avail himself of them. Third, that the nature of this world and of the people in it is determined more by our individual vision, understanding, and conduct than by any material environmental factors, and that, in other words, nothing will produce the good world but the good man. These are the principal spiritual handholds I have found to possess enduring value. They offer both an exciting challenge and a calm assurance. They are the things I believe.
That was Dr. Fred Dow Fagg, the University of Southern California's flying president. Father of two and an internationally known expert on aeronautical law, Dr. Fagg is one of California's leading citizens, and one who we'd say has a very strong grasp on reality.
Swore Old Dutch Cleanser, famous for chasing dirt, presents Nick Carter, famous for chasing crime. Every week at this time, two great names are joined as new post-war Old Dutch Cleanser brings you one of the most resourceful and daring characters in all detective fiction, Nick Carter, Master Detective.
Oh, Nick, if only he'd come. He's 10 minutes late now.
I want to see him just as much as you do, Patsy. I sure hope he can tell us what we want to know.
12 hours on this case, and we don't even know the victim's name.
That's true, Patsy. Great Scott!
Nick, is he... Did they...
Yes, Patsy, they did. He'll never tell us anything now. He's dead.
Now, the case of the Nameless Blonde. Today's exciting adventure starring Lon Clark as Nick Carter, brought to you by new post-war Old Dutch Cleanser. As our story opens, Nick has just returned to his office from lunch. Finding no one in the reception room, he makes his way back to the laboratory, where Patsy Bowen greets him.
Oh, Nick, you have a visitor in your office.
Oh, I have?
She came right after you left, a very attractive blonde.
That's nice. Who is she?
She wouldn't give me her name.
Okay, let's see what she wants. Well, why, she isn't here.
Nick, look. Behind your desk.
Great Scott.
She must have fainted.
Let's have a look. This woman hasn't fainted, Patsy. She's dead.
And that's the story on your mysterious blonde, Nick. Medical examiner finished his autopsy about 10 minutes ago.
So her death wasn't from natural causes?
Not with that much poison in her.
Huh. We don't even know who she was. There was nothing on her to identify her.
Well, I let the newspaper photographers take her picture. The edition should be on the streets by now. Have you seen them?
Patsy's out getting the papers now.
Uh-huh. Well, somebody may be able to identify her. I'll let you know if anything develops.
I'm back, Nick.
Okay, Maddie, thanks for calling.
Right.
Her picture's on the front page of all the papers, Nick.
Let me see.
What'd the sergeant have to say?
Just that our nameless blonde was poisoned.
Poison?
Yeah, she was fed arsenic 3 hours before she died.
But, Nick, I thought arsenic resulted in violent death. Well, she looked more as if she'd suffered a heart attack.
Well, sometimes it acts this way.
Well, then she just came in here and toppled over without uttering a sound?
Mm-hmm. That's why you didn't hear her.
Oh. Well, I guess I better straighten up this office. The sergeant's men certainly made a mess of your desk. You'd think they'd... Nick?
Yeah, what is it?
These aren't your keys, are they?
Well, let me see. No, I never saw them before.
Then they must belong to that woman. She was sitting here before she died, and...
Well, look here.
Oh, what is it?
There's a name printed here on the case the keys are in.
Oh?
It's almost worn off, but
Can you make it out, Nick?
Just Simon Grenander.
Simon Grenander?
Yeah.
Well, that's an odd name. Is that all it says?
Yeah, just the name. Hand me the city directory, will you?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Here.
Now, let's see what we can find. L-A-R-G, Grimley, Grendal. Well, there's no Grenander at all.
Oh, then we...
Oh, I'll get it.
Okay.
Nick Carter speaking.
Nick, this is Matty again.
Yeah?
We got a nibble on that picture in the paper.
You mean somebody identified her?
No, but a cab driver just came into my office. He says he recognizes her as a fare he picked up downtown yesterday.
Good.
He took her out on Lafayette Road.
Lafayette Road?
Yeah.
That's a pretty swank neighborhood.
I'll say. Now, the street number was 1720.
1720?
Yeah, I'm on my way out there now.
Patsy and I'll meet you there. 20 minutes.
Here I am over here, Nick.
Okay, Matty.
Hello, Sergeant.
Oh, hiya, Patsy. Well, this is the place, Nick. I thought I'd wait for you two before I did any investigating.
Oh. Gee, the house is completely dark.
Yeah, don't look like anyone's home.
Not the friendliest place I've ever seen.
Uh-uh.
Ring the bell, will you, Matty?
Right.
There is no use trying to get in.
What the...
Stand right where you are. Don't try anything because I have a gun.
Hey, look, who are you?
Who are you? And what are you doing trespassing on private property?
We happen to be the police, mister.
The police?
Yeah.
Yeah, now who are you?
I'm the caretaker. My name is Weber.
Nobody home here?
No. There's no one living in the house now. Hasn't been since the funeral.
Funeral? Whose funeral?
Mr. Stokes. He died just last week. He lived here alone.
Do you mean Marvin Stokes of Stokes and Whitaker, the big real estate company?
That's right.
Oh.
Were you here all day yesterday, Weber?
Sure. I'm here all the time, day and night.
And maybe you can tell us the name of the visitor you had yesterday.
Visitor?
Yes.
I did not have any visitors yesterday.
Look, we know a woman came to this house in a taxicab late last evening. Now, who was she?
You're crazy. No woman came here.
The cab driver says he let her out here and she walked up the steps before he drove off.
That is not so.
Who's Simon Gonander?
Simon Gonander? I've never heard of anyone by that name.
All right. You have the authority to let us in this house?
No, I cannot do that. You would have to see Mr. Stokes' partner, Mr. Whitaker. He is the only one who could let you in.
Why Mr. Whitaker?
Because he is in charge of this property now.
Okay. Guess that means we drop in on Mr. Whitaker.
Well, you go ahead, Nick. I gotta get back to headquarters.
See you later then, Matty.
Okay.
Come on, Patsy.
Of course, Mr. Carter. You can get into the Stokes home anytime you want to.
Thanks, Mr. Whitaker.
However, I doubt that it will throw any light on this mysterious woman you've been telling me about.
Well, why do you say that, Mr. Whitaker?
Because, Miss Bowen, it's hard for me to believe that Marvin Stokes had any dealings with a woman.
Oh?
He and I were partners for 20 years, Mr. Carter. And in all that time, he had no interest in women at all. In fact, he was woman shy. It was an obsession with him.
Well, this gets screwier and screwier, Nick. The only thing we're sure of about that woman is that she went to Stokes' house.
Well...
And now we find that she had no reason to go there and that nobody saw her when she got there.
Oh, by the way, Mr. Whitaker, does the name of Gonander mean anything to you? Simon Gonander?
No. No, I've never heard the name before, to the best of my Excuse me. Hello?
This is Sergeant Matheson of Homicide. Is Nick Carter there?
Yes, just a moment. For you, Mr. Carter.
Thanks. Hello?
Nick, Matty, we got another bite on that newspaper picture.
Oh?
A guy named McIntyre just called to say he thinks he can identify the dame.
Say his name's McIntyre?
Yeah, Captain Ernest McIntyre. I'm meeting him at the morgue in 20 minutes.
Okay, Matty. We'll get over there right away.
Oh, what the devil's keeping that guy? He's 15 minutes late already.
Oh, take it easy, Sergeant. He'll be here.
Oh.
Hey, Matty, you have any idea who this Captain McIntyre is?
No, he just said he was a retired sea captain. I asked him if...
What's that?
Holy smoke, those were shots.
They're right outside.
Yeah, come on.
Right.
Now, look, there's a man lying there. He's been shot.
Yeah, killer must be in that car that just pulled away, Nick.
Yeah, it's the only way he could get out of here so fast.
Well, whoever blasted this guy did a good job. He's dead.
Nick, do you think this is Captain McIntyre?
Wait till I see whether there's any identification on him.
Yep. Hey, what's that, Nick?
Billfold.
Find anything in it?
Yeah, he's Captain McIntyre, all right.
Well, how do you like that for a lousy break?
Well, now we know somebody's determined to keep us from identifying that woman. So determined, in fact, they'll even commit murder to do it.
And so, once again, Nick is frustrated in his desire to learn the identity of the nameless blonde. We'll see what happens next in just a minute. And now, back to the case of the nameless blonde. Today's adventure with Nick Carter, brought to you by new post-war Old Dutch Cleanser. As we pick up our story, 2 hours have passed since the death of Captain McIntyre, the man who promised to identify the mysterious woman Nick found murdered in his office. Now in the bright moonlight, Nick, Patsy, and Sergeant Matheson approach a small waterfront shanty.
The next shack down the beach should be the one where McIntyre lived.
Yeah, what do you expect to find in the captain's shanty, Nick?
Well, there's just a chance, Matty, that McIntyre had something in his possession that'll tell us what he himself would have told us if he'd lived.
Like what the dead woman's name was and who poisoned her?
Yeah, the key to her death must be her name.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, why would somebody be so darned anxious to keep us from learning what it was?
Well, that makes sense, but... That's McIntyre's shack over there. There's somebody in it, Nick.
Yes. The lights are on. It looks as though somebody's moving around inside.
Come on, we gotta hurry.
Yeah. Hey, the lights went out.
Better watch it. We'd make swell targets in this moonlight. Hey, get down, Patsy.
Put this hand. Whoever's in that shack spotted us.
And doesn't want us to spot him.
He's staying in the shadows, Nick. He must have gone around behind the shack. I'm going after him.
Now, hold it, Matty.
What?
I have a feeling those shots were meant to cover a getaway. There's no use trying to catch him now.
Yeah, I guess you're right, Nick.
Well, aren't we going to take a look in that shack?
You bet we are. Watch your step, Patsy.
I'm okay.
Okay. Careful now. I'm going to open the door. Keep your gun ready, Matty.
Don't worry.
Oh, it's open.
Uh-oh.
Gee, it's dark in here. Can you find a light?
Maybe there's a switch by the door. Yeah, here we are.
Oh, boy, look at this place.
Looks like a cyclone hit it.
I expected something like this.
Yeah. If we're right in thinking that McIntyre was killed to stop him from telling us who the woman was, then the murderer was pretty sure to have the same idea we had.
Certainly. He'd come here to look for evidence that might help us to identify her.
Then it was probably the murderer who took that pot shot at us.
Could be.
Nick,
Yeah.
there's someone on the porch.
Okay, you guys, what's going on here?
Take it easy, brother. This thing in my hand ain't no water pistol.
Who are you?
The police.
Police, huh?
Yeah.
Well, what's the idea of tearing a joint apart?
What's that to you?
It so happens I bunk here, copper.
Thought this was Captain McIntyre's shack.
It is. Him and me, we live here together. I was Mac's first mate before he quit shipping out.
What's your name?
Gunther. Al Gunther.
Uh-huh. Well, you better start looking for a new roommate, Gunther. Captain McIntyre's dead.
Dead?
Of course, you wouldn't know anything about that.
No, I wouldn't.
Or about the woman he was going to identify when he was murdered.
You mean somebody bumped Mac off?
That's right.
Well, I'll be darned.
But, say, you don't seem exactly broken up about it.
What do you want me to do, sister? Bust out and cry? We all gotta die sometime.
Well,
Gunther, you ever hear of a man named Simon Grenander?
Simon Grenander? Why,
Well, it looks like he has, Nick.
No, I ain't. It don't mean nothing to me.
What do you do for a living now, Gunther?
Me?
Who else?
I'm working on a private yacht. It's owned by a guy named Whitaker.
Whitaker?
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
Not a thing.
Good. Anybody got any objections if I fill my pipe?
Not at all. Go right ahead.
Thank you.
Very expensive humidor you keep your tobacco in.
It ain't mine. It's Mac's.
May I see it a minute, Gunther?
I can't stop you, can I?
Well, now.
What is it, Nick?
There's a very interesting inscription on the lid of this humidor.
Yeah, what's it say, Nick?
June 1938. To Captain Ernest McIntyre with deepest gratitude. From Marvin Stokes.
You say we can get in the Stokes house this time, Nick?
Yes, Matty. I called Whitaker's home. His sister Elizabeth said she'd meet us there and let us in.
Well, what do you think that'll get you, Nick?
Oh, look, Patsy. 2 people have been murdered. And the only link between them is that somehow they were connected with Marvin Stokes.
I know, but...
One thing, I hope I can find something in Stokes' personal papers to tell us what kind of favor Captain McIntyre did for him 10 years ago.
Yeah, and maybe we can find out why the woman who died in your office went to his house after he was dead.
I hope so. The answers to those questions should tell us who the woman was and why she was murdered.
Do you find anything of interest in Mr. Stokes' correspondence, Mr. Carter?
No, not yet, Miss Whitaker. But I'm not even halfway through yet.
Where'd the sergeant go, Nick?
Oh, out to find Weber. Said he was going to see...
Okay, Weber, get in there.
And it sounds as though he found her.
Well, I finally got the truth out of this guy, Nick. He was lying, all right.
He was?
Yeah, the dame who died in your office was here in this house.
Okay, who was she, Weber?
I don't know her name. She did not tell me.
Then why did you lie about her being here?
I had orders not to let anybody in. She gave me $20 to forget them, and well,
You took the bribe and then were afraid to admit it.
Yeah. I was afraid Mr. Whitaker would fire me.
Nick, look what I found.
Let's see. Well.
What is it, Nick?
Recognize the woman in this photograph, Matty?
Do I Holy smoke. It's the blonde that died in your office.
And listen to what's written on the bottom. To Marvin from Marjorie, with all my love, always.
Oh, no. No.
Miss Whittaker, what's the matter? You know this woman?
No. No, I never saw her before.
Nick, she looks like she's going to faint. Sit down here, Miss Whittaker.
Hey, what's eating her anyway?
You better tell us the truth, Miss Whittaker.
I don't want to talk about it.
You say you never saw this woman before, and yet a picture of her almost makes you faint. Why?
Well, because she... Oh, I always suspected there was another woman. That's why Marvin wouldn't marry me.
What?
Yes, I loved Marvin Stokes. I loved him for years, but there was something standing between us. Now I know it was Marjorie.
And it also gives you a pretty good motive for poisoning her, Miss Whittaker.
Poisoning her?
Yeah.
Well, that's absurd. I never laid eyes on her.
Well, how could there be a woman in Stokes' life that neither you nor your brother knew anything about?
Well, there's only one answer to that, Mr. Carter. He must have met her the year he spent abroad.
Abroad? What year was that?
He went to Europe in the summer of 1938.
Oh, now, this is beginning to add up. Hey, Patsy, give me the Stokes papers for 1938.
Uh-huh. 47, 44, 48. Yep. 1938.
Thanks.
Here they are, Nick.
Now, let's see. March, April, May, June. Hey, what's this?
What did you find, Nick?
Cablegram sent to Stokes. Signed by Alphonse de Grasse, manager of the Hotel Louis Cotte.
That's the hotel where Marvin always stayed when he was in Paris.
What's it say, Nick?
Congratulations. Reservations changed as requested. And it's addressed to Stokes on the SS Simon Grenander.
Simon Grenander? Hey, Nick, that's the name that's on the dead woman's key case.
Well, I'll be darned. It's not a man at all. It's a ship.
Oh, brother, now this case is more balled up than ever.
Not at all, Matty, not at all.
What?
I'd say it's beginning to clear up quite nicely.
Nick, if you really know who the murderer is, why the dickens don't we go get him instead of sitting around the office waiting?
We're waiting for Matty to track down the proof.
Meaning the log of the SS Simon Grenander?
Yeah. He's going to call us from the harbor master's office.
But what do you expect to find in the log?
Well, look, Patsy, we know that 10 years ago in 1938, a ship's captain named McIntyre performed some sort of service for Martin Stokes. Something that Stokes was grateful for, right?
Yes, but...
We also know that Stokes met a woman named Marjorie in 1938, and that she was in love with him.
Well,
right?
go on, so what?
Remember what the cablegram said?
Of course, congratulations, reservations changed as requested.
Right. Now, why would a hotel manager cable Stokes his congratulations?
Why?
And why would Stokes want his reservation changed?
Well, I don't know.
Patsy, think. What's one of the functions of a captain on a ship at sea?
One of the... Why, he can marry people. And that's why the congratulations.
Now you're
and what...
catching on. In other words, I believe Captain McIntyre married Marvin Stokes to this Marjorie, whoever she was.
But can you prove it?
Well, I hope I can. And I think the log of the Simon Grenander will bear me out, if we can find it.
Uh-huh. Marjorie and Stokes must have separated. We know she didn't come back to America with him.
Apparently not. But now after Stokes is dead, this Marjorie suddenly bobs up. Now, who's the one person who'd be most anxious to get rid of her?
You tell me.
Well, if Miss Marjorie could have proved that she was Stokes' legal wife, she'd have had a claim to his estate, no matter what kind of a will he left.
Why, I get it. Whoever inherited Stokes' property would have had to get rid of her or lose his inheritance.
Right.
And Thomas Whittaker was the sole heir to Stokes' estate.
That's what the will says.
Then Whittaker is the murderer.
I believe he is.
Well, I'll be darned.
Of course, it's still just a theory. There's no record of the marriage or the log of the SS Grenander, then...
Oh, that must be the sergeant now.
Nick Carter speaking.
It's Matty, Nick. The SS Grenander was junked a couple of years ago.
What? Don't tell me the log's lost, Matty.
No, I just spoke to the manager of the steamship company that owned it. He says all the ship's papers are stored in the warehouse on Pier 32.
Can you get the log for us?
Yeah, he says he'll give me the key to the warehouse. So I'll pick it up and meet you there, huh?
Okay, Matty. Pier 32. Right. 15 minutes.
Down this way, Nick.
Boy, is this some fog that's rolling in. I can't see a darn thing.
Hold on to my arm, Patsy.
Hey, you're pretty sure Whittaker's our man, huh, Nick?
All adds up that way, Matty. Of course, I can't swear to it, but I'd certainly... Back against the wall, quick.
Can you see anyone, Nick?
No. Fog's too heavy. You got your gun, Matty?
Yeah, I got it all right. What am I going to do with it? When you can't see what you're going to...
Listen, someone's running toward the end of the dock.
Yeah, I can see a shadow. Stop, or I'll shoot! Okay, if that's what you want.
Matty, I think you dropped him.
Yeah, come on.
Do you think it's Whitaker, Nick?
My theory's right, it should be. He came down here after the log, too. It was the last piece of evidence he had to dispose of.
All right. Here he is.
You dead, Matty?
Oh, blast it, yes. I didn't want to kill him. Oh, drat this fog.
Nick, look.
What is it, Patsy?
This isn't Thomas Whitaker.
What?
No. It's Captain McIntyre's first mate, Al Gunther.
Bewildered, Nick, Patsy, and Matty stare down at the body on the dock. Does this mean that Nick's deductions were wrong? That it was Gunther and not Thomas Whitaker who committed the murders? We'll bring you the conclusion of this adventure in just a minute. Now for the conclusion of the case of the Nameless Blonde. Today's adventure with Nick Carter, brought to you by new post-war Old Dutch Cleanser. Standing in the ghostly glow of a small electric lantern on a fog-shrouded dock, Nick, Patsy, and Matty stare down at the man who has just died, surprised to learn that it is not, as Nick had predicted, Thomas Whitaker.
Nick, this means Whitaker wasn't the killer. It must have been this man, Gunther.
Patsy's right, Nick. Looks like your big theory kind of blew up in your face, didn't it?
Maybe, Matty. And then again, maybe not.
What?
Take a look at Gunther's body. He was shot once, in the head.
So what? I fired 3 times, 2 of my shots missed, 1 hit him.
Sorry, Matty, but all 3 of yours missed.
Oh, now
the
look,
bullet that
Nick.
killed Gunther wasn't fired from your gun.
What?
Now, Nick,
Your
you
gun
can't-
is a .45 police automatic. The wound in his head was obviously made by a gun of a much smaller caliber.
Holy smoke, Dick, you're right.
Which means that Gunther was the goat for somebody else. He was down here with a murderer. And the murderer killed him, hoping we'd think we'd caught our man.
And that means the murderer is still somewhere on this dock.
Quite right, Miss
Oh.
And not too far away from him.
That's Whitaker, Nick. I know his voice.
Yeah. Wherever he is, I can't see him because of this darn fog.
I can see you plainly, Carter, under that light. Put your hands up, all 3 of you.
Do as he says.
Oh.
He's already killed 3 people to protect his interest in Marvin Stokes' estate.
So you figured it all out, did you, Carter? I'm sure you agree that I had no choice once I learned that Marvin was married to Marjorie Lawson.
Yes, and once she threatened to prove that fact by hiring me to find either Captain McIntyre, the log, or the Simon Grenander.
Precisely. But she made the mistake of paying a call on me before she went to your office. I treated her well. In fact, I gave her a cup of coffee.
With arsenic in it.
Unfortunately, yes.
And then when you heard that McIntyre was going to meet us at the morgue, you ambushed him outside and shot him before he could tell his story.
Right again. Just as I'm going to shoot you.
I don't think so, Whitaker. You told us to raise our hands, but you forgot to say anything about dropping our gun.
Nice work, Nick, shooting out that light.
Now he can't see us any better than we can see him.
He's trying to get past.
There he goes. You can see his silhouette.
Stop, Whitaker. Stop for us.
Nick, what took you so long?
Oh, I had to stay at the hospital while Whitaker made a statement.
Oh, what'd he say?
Everything was pretty much the way we figured it, Patsy.
We?
Well, you know what I mean. Marjorie Lawson, or Marjorie Stokes, I should say, arrived from London last week. She'd been living there ever since she left her husband.
Well, why did she leave him?
Well, from what Whitaker said, they came from different social levels. Stokes was wealthy, and she was a shop girl.
Oh.
Apparently, after the honeymoon was over, he was ashamed of her.
Well, that's a fine thing.
Yeah, that's why they broke up only a few months after they were married.
And that must be why Stokes never mentioned the marriage.
Yeah, I suppose so. And the only proof Marjorie had of their marriage was in that ship's log.
No marriage certificate?
No. Whitaker says she told him all her papers were destroyed in the London Blitz during the war.
Oh, what a break.
Now, wasn't it? She was probably looking for some kind of proof in Stokes' papers the night she bribed Weber to let her in.
Uh-huh.
But she didn't find it. So she came to see me.
It all makes sense, Nick. That is, except for Gunther. Where did he fit in the picture?
Why, you put him in the picture, Patsy.
I did?
Uh-huh. By your reaction when he said he worked for Whitaker.
But...
It made him curious. He went straight to Whitaker tonight to find out what it was all about.
Uh-huh. And Whitaker persuaded him to help him find the logbook.
So it seems.
But how about Whitaker, Nick? Was he badly hurt?
Oh, Matty's bullet got him in the right leg. I think he'll be up and around in time to go on the last walk he'll ever take.
Well, Nick,
What about the adventure new post-war Old Dutch Cleanser is going to bring us next week?
Mike, it's one of my most unusual cases. About a man who prayed people to death.
Prayed them to death? And did they really die?
Oh, I'll say they did.
And before it was all over, Mike, this man started praying for Nick to die.
Well, I guess a lot of criminals have felt the same way about Nick. What do you call the story, Nick?
I call it A Case of the Salesman of Death.
Nick Carter, Master Detective, is presented each week at this time by the Cudahy Packing Company. It is produced and directed by Jock McGregor and is copyrighted by Street and Smith Publications, Incorporated. Charlotte Manson is featured as Patsy. Ed Latimer plays Matty. Today's script was written by Ken Pettis and Lou Schofield. Original music is played by Henry Silverne. This program is fictional, and any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. Every 10 minutes, somebody dies of tuberculosis. Yet tuberculosis is curable and can be wiped out. And the sooner it's caught, the quicker and easier the cure. That's why, as a preventive measure, everyone is urged to have his chest x-rayed. Some local tuberculosis associations and health departments do this free or at very little cost. So check your chest. Get a chest x-ray tomorrow. This is Michael Fitzmaurice saying, when minutes count, use new post-war Old Dutch Cleanser. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
This I believe. Dr. Howard A. Rusk, a specialist in the field of physical medicine and rehabilitation, is one of this country's greatest physicians. He is a professor and department chairman at the New York University College of Medicine and serves as consultant to the Veterans Administration and the United Nations. This is Dr. Rusk's creed.
I can't remember when I didn't want to be a doctor. Even as an adolescent, when I scrubbed floors and ran errands at the local hospital in order to smell ether and go on rounds with a country doctor, surgery did not spell the glamour in medicine to me. It was people, sick people, their suffering, their problems, and their victories that challenged. It has been a rare privilege to be a doctor in medicine's golden era. Far more scientific advances have been made in the last 3 decades than in all time heretofore. Man's lifespan has increased from 18 2,000 years ago to 68 in America today. But I have found it impossible to ignore the fact that these great medical advances have posed new problems. Crippled children who in the past would have died early in life now survive. They want to grow and work and love and be loved. I have heard old people to whom we have added these years ask, for what? The shelf to wait for death, or an opportunity to live and work in dignity as long as we are able? Millions of veterans throughout the world who have scarred their minds and given parts of their bodies to war have more than earned their right to live and love and work, and to know that their sacrifice has at least been one small stone that is being used to build a better world. Sick people throughout the world ask their God, why must I suffer? Possibly the answer comes in the work of the potter. Great ceramics are not made by putting clay in the sun. They come only from the white heat of the kiln. In the firing process, some pieces are broken, but those that survive the heat are transformed from clay into objects of art. And so it is, it seems to me, with sick, suffering, and crippled people. Those who, through medical skill, opportunity, work, and courage, survive their illness or overcome their handicap and take their places back in the world have a depth of spirit that you and I can hardly measure. They haven't wasted their pain. Because of this experience, they have a desire to share that is almost a compulsion. It matters not whether they be a physician from India, a Zionist from Israel, a Greek veteran, or a Pole disabled in a mining accident, all want to share the understanding they have gained through suffering or by helping those who have suffered. I believe that this basic and inherent desire of man to do something for his less fortunate fellow transcends religious dogmas, political beliefs, and geographical barriers. If we could only use this universal language, we would have a tool to unravel the babel of tongues, and an instrument which would penetrate any iron curtain or closed boundary. It does not seem strange to me that the sick should turn to those who have suffered for their greatest comfort. And so in a sick world, it is not strange that we turn to those who have been ravaged by suffering and disease for a common language. If we could start to work here, together, in a program where all of us have the same goals, it is more than possible that with God's help, we would find the solution for living together in peace. This I believe.
That was Dr. Howard A. Rusk, an associate editor of the New York Times. He is the winner of the Lasker Award, Medicine's Oscar.
Wheaties presents Night Beat. On stage tonight from Hollywood, Night Beat, another in the Wheaties big parade of exciting half-hour presentations. Night Beat.
Hi, this is Randy Stone. I cover the Night Beat for the Chicago Star. Stories begin in many different ways. This one began with a strange little man who claimed the most remarkable power. The power to kill with his mind.
Night Beat, starring Frank Lovejoy as Randy Stone.
Suppose you were a kernel of wheat instead of people listening to the radio. Why, you'd have about as much chance of getting to be a Wheaties flake as you have right now to be president. Actually, less than 2% of all the kernels of wheat that hope to be Wheaties when they grow up ever set flake in a Wheaties box. That's how fussy the Wheaties folks are. Whole wheat for Wheaties has to be golden, perfect whole wheat. And when you buy Wheaties, that's what you get. Perfect whole wheat with all its nourishment. Of course, people, no matter who they are, can eat Wheaties, breakfast of champions, all they want, any time. And that includes you. Have some. Tell your grocer we sent you.
It was one of those lousy moods I had. Spring in the air, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and nothing ahead of me except another day's work. A broken leg and a month in bed. I should be so lucky. I started to walk down Michigan Boulevard. By the time I reached the art museum, I hated the whole world. Everybody was going home, and I was going to work. So, like a school kid playing hooky, I turned into a patch of grass landscaping the museum, and I sat down on a bench. The other end of the bench was a little old guy. He was thin as Melba toast, and he was staring at a pigeon perched on the fountain. I was beginning to feel persecuted, like I was the only one in the whole wide city who had to go to work. In a nice, lazy kind of way, I was beginning to wish I was dead.
I wish you were dead.
At first, I didn't know where the voice came from. There was no one in back of me. There was no one around except the little guy at the other end of the bench.
There. I did it again.
You know, that's not a very nice thing to say to somebody you don't even know.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't think you hurt me.
Oh, certainly I heard you. Why would you wish a thing like that on me?
Oh, but I didn't mean you. Not at all. Because if I did, you would now be dead.
You mean I would be dead?
It's terrible. Just terrible.
Well, if it wasn't me you just said that too, then who was it?
The pigeon.
Pigeon?
The one that was on the fountain.
I see. And what happened to the pigeon?
He died.
The pigeon died?
Oh, yes. It'll happen every time. I'll get the bird and show you. Yes, it's dead, all right. You see? Perfectly dead.
Oh, now look, Mr.
Fettle is my name.
Yeah, Stone is mine. Randy Stone, and I guess I'll be running along.
Oh, I thought perhaps you could help me, Mr. Stone. You look like the kind of person who would understand.
Yeah. I'm the harmless type that's always walking into a confession.
Well, you see, it's something I can't tell to just anyone.
Yeah, well, some other time. I'll be seeing you.
Oh, that's the way it is. Everybody's interested in only themselves.
Well, get rid of that bird. It's not very pleasant sitting next to someone holding a dead thing in his hand.
Oh, of course. If I put it over there under the bush, would you listen to me? Maybe if I talked about it, it might help. You're not a policeman, are you?
Oh, no. I'm a newspaper man.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, get rid of the bird.
And then you'll listen to me?
Yeah, I'll listen to you.
Oh, that's very good of you, Mr. Stone. I'll just put it down over here.
He was a cute little old guy who didn't seem to fit into a world of airplanes and the Geiger count. He was still wearing a white celluloid collar and a tarnished diamond stick pin and a black tie. He was as clean as grandmother's old lace and just as faded. His white hair bulged from an old fedora hat, and his eyebrows looked like the prank of a makeup artist. They were untouched by age, and they were strawberry red. I was already feeling sorry for him, and I knew if I could, I was going to help him. He put the bird under the bush, and then he looked down at it and sighed.
I didn't mean to do it.
Sure, I understand. Now, what's bothering you?
You see, I killed that bird simply by looking at it and saying that I wished it were dead.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm. You wished it was dead and it died.
You heard me, didn't you? You wouldn't think a thing like that was possible, would you?
Well, I don't know. If I remember correctly, there was this fellow King Midas. He had a pretty good thing, too. All he had to do was touch something and it turned into gold.
Oh, of course, that was only a fairy tale. You're not poking fun at me, Mr. Stone. You're not implying that I made this up.
Well, now, don't get touchy. It's pretty hard to get used to. All you have to do is wish a bird is dead and it dies.
Anything. A bird or even a person. And they die.
Well, that's quite a power you got.
You don't believe me, do you?
You ought to get a hold of yourself, don't you think?
I knew I shouldn't have said anything at all.
All right. Now, let's say I believe you. What do you expect me to do?
I'm getting afraid of myself. I can become dangerous.
Well, don't wish those things and you won't be dangerous.
But if I ever hate like I once did, then I'm not responsible. The words would just come out. It would happen.
You mean you could wish I was dead or anybody and they'd die?
That's what I've been trying to tell you. I don't want to hurt anybody, Mr. Stone. You still don't believe me.
Oh, I think it's a perfectly wonderful story. Now I gotta go.
Oh, please don't go. Don't leave me, Mr. Stone, please.
Take your hands off my coat. Do you mind? I want to go to work.
But listen, I killed a man.
Oh?
I killed Mr. Brown.
Mr. Brown?
Arthur E. Brown, president of the Utilities Loan Company.
Uh-huh. You killed him.
I was the one.
It was the urgency in the way he wrung his hands together that got me. I felt pretty foolish sitting there on a park bench listening to the most fantastic kind of nonsense. For 40 years, he worked for this company. He never married. He lived a lonely life. The only pleasure he had was his job. But he was getting old. And then one day, it was on a Friday, he got his paycheck from the head bookkeeper.
Thank you. Oh. But this is a mistake, a terrible mistake, Miss Johnson. This check is too much.
Let me see. Oh, I don't think so, Mr. Fettle.
Oh, but that's 3 weeks' pay. 2 weeks more than I've got coming. It's not my vacation, you know. I always take mine in July.
Yes, I know, Mr. Fettle.
Then you better rectify it, Miss Johnson.
I'm sorry no one told you. On the back of the check, Mr. Fettle, that slip of paper.
Oh? You mean this?
Mm-hmm.
Why, that's a 2 weeks' notice. Oh, that's a terrible mistake.
I hope so, Mr. Fettle.
Such a stupid thing. Imagine my being here so long. Why, everybody knows. I better see Smitty about this right away.
Smitty's been transferred to the Ohio branch.
Since when?
5 weeks ago, Mr. Fettle.
Oh. Well, then I'll see the new fellow. I don't like to embarrass him, but I must bring this to his attention.
I'm sorry, Mr. Fettle.
But you don't understand. You're new here.
Yes, Mr. Fettle, but there's nothing I can do.
Well, I'll have to go to someone who can. Who is it that's over you?
Well, you might try one of the vice presidents.
Of
course, Mr. Fettle, you realize I had no idea. Why don't you see the treasure? I'm really quite sorry, Mr. Fettle, but really, it's out of my hands.
I see. No one will take the responsibility. No one cares. Sending me from one to the other like I was some kind of thing being volleyed about. I'm going to the president. I'll tell Mr. Brown.
Mr. Fettle went up another flight of stairs running, right through a whole pool of minor executives, straight into Mr. Brown's office. Brown was sitting there in an enormous leather chair, a very huge, fat man. His face was red and puffy. Instead of breathing, he seemed to gasp. He was that mad when Mr. Fettle walked in unannounced.
What are you doing in my office? Mr. Brown, I just had to see you. There seems to be no one to take the responsibility for this. You see, I've been here so many years. They just don't seem to realize how long I've been here. I wanted you to straighten it out for me.
Get out of here!
But it's so unfair.
Get out! I said get out of here!
The hatred that had been piling up in Mr. Fettle had now found a target. He looked Brown squarely in the eyes and said it right to his face, right out loud.
I wish you were dead.
You what?
I wish you were dead. Oh, he's dead. Somebody quick! Mr. Brown is dead.
General Mills is bringing you Night Beat, starring Frank Lovejoy as Randy Stone.
We know a youngster who asks the kind of questions you have to put the paper down to answer. So the boy wants to know, do the baseball champions really eat Wheaties like it says in the ads? Really? Honest? Well, honest they do. Phil Rizzuto eats Wheaties. Jackie Robinson eats Wheaties. Pee Wee Reese eats Wheaties. Tommy Henrik and Luke Appling and Ellis Kinder eat Wheaties. Honest. And what's more, a lot of these stars of the game today have eaten Wheaties for years. Bob Feller, the Cleveland pitcher, is almost a 20-year man. Right today, Bob eats Wheaties 4 to 5 times a week. He likes them with berries, which is a pretty good way to have Wheaties, too. Now, Bob says, Wheaties is the only cereal I ever eat, and I'd recommend it to anyone. So, you see, we really have an excellent reason for calling Wheaties Breakfast of Champions. Any other questions?
And now, back to Night Beat and Randy Stone.
Sure, we've all thought about the idea at some time or other in our lives. And we could look at another person and wish he were dead, and bingo, it would happen. But then we all grew up and we forgot about it. But here was this little old guy, Mr. Fettle, who not only believed this phenomenon about himself, but was determined to prove it to me. That's what I get for stopping on a park bench when I should have been on my way to the paper.
So you see, Mr. Stone, that's how it all started that day in the office.
Well, don't worry about it, Mr. Fettle. Coincidence.
Oh, I wish you were right. But what about the flies?
I'll bite. What about them?
I'd hold them in my hand and say it. And then they'd stop buzzing and keep real still. Dead.
Oh, you're taking yourself too seriously. Stop squeezing flies to death and stop telling yourself you're Superman.
But what about the bird? It was perched on the fountain. I wasn't even near him. And I looked at him and I said it. And then, just like that, it fell to the ground. Dead.
Mm-hmm. First it's Mr. Brown, then it's squeezing the flies, and finally the pigeon. Oh, go on home, Mr. Fettle. Go on home before I begin wishing you were dead.
I knew I shouldn't have told you. Now I don't know where to turn. I've got the strangest feeling, a terrible need to test everything. Just to go around wishing things were dead. I'm sorry I took up your time, Mr. Stone.
What's that?
Hey,
wait a minute, Mr. Fettle. That kid over there.
Hey, Jerry, over here. I found it.
Uh-huh. See that boy with the BB gun? See him?
How's that?
If I can prove you didn't kill that bird, will you go home and forget about the whole thing?
Those boys they're picking up the bird. They shouldn't do that.
Hey, kid. What are you doing with the BB gun?
Nothing.
You shot that bird, didn't you?
It was an accident. Honest, mister. We didn't mean nothing.
Come here now. Bring it over here.
Run, Jerry, run. He's going to get us in the
Hey, come here. I'm not going to do anything. Come here. Well, they're gone, and they took the bird. But now you know, Mr. Fettle, it wasn't you. The kid did it with the BB gun, okay?
You mean they thought they did it?
I see. Okay, so you want to believe you did. It makes you feel important, doesn't it?
Important?
Yeah, it gives you a feeling of power, doesn't it?
Oh, no, Mr. Stone. I feel like a murderer.
Well, if you feel that way, why don't you turn yourself into the police?
I thought of that. But I'm not a stupid man. They'd either laugh at me or put me in an institution. And I'm not insane, Mr. Stone.
Yeah, well, I'd like to help you, but I don't know what I can do to convince you.
I can't sleep. I haven't eaten. And I'm in no condition to look for work.
Oh, look, Mr. Fettle, we're going to put a stop to this nonsense right now. It's getting late. I got to go to work. Before I go, I'm going to settle this once and for all.
Oh, anything you did, I'd appreciate.
All right. Now, here I am sitting right next to you, right?
Yes.
All right. And now I'm standing up. See, I'm healthy. Nothing wrong with me, right?
Well, of course.
Now look at me.
Well, I don't think I understand.
Just keep looking at me.
Well?
All right, go ahead now. Wish that I was dead.
Oh, but Mr. Stone, why should I do anything like that to you?
You want to be able to go home and get a good night's sleep? You want to be able to eat and start living like a human being again? All right, go ahead. Wish I was dead.
I won't do it. I won't.
Because you're a liar, aren't you?
But don't say that.
You're a liar, Mr. Fettle. You're a liar.
Keep away from me, please. I don't want anything to happen to you.
Anything to hang on to your little fantasy. Anything to sit here in the park and keep someone talking to you. You're lonely, Mr. Fettle, and you're a little bit nutty, if you ask me.
Don't make me do it, please, Mr. Stone. Don't get near me that way.
Then say it. I said say it. Despite myself, the sweat was beginning to bubble on my forehead. I could feel the back of my shirt getting wet. I could have kicked myself up and down State Street for being sucked into this old man's stupid little nightmare. But there I was, like a Madison Street mooch, insisting that the guy prove it. Not to himself anymore, but to me. Go ahead, Mr. Fettle, say it.
Please don't make me, Mr. Stone.
He cringed away from me now, and his back was pressing up against a tree, and I kept following him. As I got closer to him, he had no other place to run. And he stood there with the most peculiar expression in his eyes.
All right, Mr. Stone. But it's not my fault, understand? I don't want to do it, understand?
I understand. Now say it.
Please forgive me, Mr. Stone, but you're making me, isn't that right? You're making me say it.
Well, say it and get it over with.
I wish you were... I can't. I just can't.
There's no use pretending I wasn't relieved. I felt both frightened and silly playing this little game.
I just couldn't do it to you, Mr. Stone. I'm not angry. I've gotten to know you and like you. It's become so personal. I wouldn't want anything to happen to you.
As he talked, his eyes became fixed on the building opposite the park. It was a tall building, and way up high, about the 18th story, there was a man up there washing windows.
You see that up there? You see him?
Oh, the window washer?
There's nothing personal about him, is there? Just a speck crawling on the side of a building washing windows.
You're going to start that all over again.
Well, there's nothing personal about that. That speck up there, is there?
Now, look, you're not going to drive me batty.
Well, if you'll only believe me, I'll try to show you.
You mean with the window washer?
He's pretty far away, and it's so impersonal, and, well, it may not work.
Of course it won't work. That's what I've been trying to tell you.
Well, I mean my not knowing him. Maybe I have to know the person or be real close. Maybe I have to have an argument with the person or not like him.
Yeah, like the pigeon.
Oh, well, that was different. I actually looked into the pigeon's eyes, and he looked at me. And that's when I said it.
Yeah. Oh, why don't you go home and go to bed? Read a good book. Forget about yourself.
You're going?
That's right.
Oh, wait. I'll do it.
I stood there watching him. He stared at the man on the 18th floor for a long time. As the man started to change his safety belt to move from one window ledge to the next, just as he took off one rope from the bolt on the window frame, Mr. Fettle started to whisper.
I wish you were dead.
It all happened in a split second. The moment he said it, the man on the window ledge lost his balance. First, the bucket came clattering to the ground. And then, the man hung suspended, dangling by one rope and clawing at the air to get back on the ledge. And then the rope broke. And the man fell to the ground. When it happened, I ran over to the building and got what few facts were available. The item appeared in the late edition, about 10 lines on page 8. Naturally, I said nothing of the little old man on the park bench, or they would have thought I was as insane as I felt the little guy to be. But I couldn't get the amazing Mr. Fettle out of my mind. When I started to feel that I, in some weird manner, were indirectly responsible for the window washer's death, then I knew I was involved up to my neck. I went downstairs to the newspaper library. I found the item I was looking for. Arthur E. Brown, president of the Utilities Loan Association, had succumbed to a heart attack and was pronounced dead upon the arrival of his personal physician, George Watkins. The first thing next morning, I went to see Dr. Watkins.
I'll be glad to give you whatever information you want, Mr. Stone, but I'm also rather curious as to your reasons.
Well, in a very general way, I'm interested in certain types of death.
Oh, coronary, heart fatalities?
You might call it that.
What is it you wanted to know?
Well, as I understand it, there was someone present in Mr. Brown's office at the time he died.
I believe so. One of his employees.
I'm wondering if this man could have in any way brought on the heart attack.
It's possible. But that particular day, not at all probable.
Why not?
Mr. Brown had complained of a severe constriction across the chest, and his secretary had already called me before that man was in his office. In fact, I was on my way over to his office before he succumbed. Mr. Brown's secretary was in the first aid room getting him some medicine.
You mean Brown was already dying before the man even got into the office?
Mr. Brown was already dying of the effects of an extraordinary lunch. With the kind of heart condition he had, his death was just as inevitable as tomorrow's sunrise.
It couldn't be any plainer than that. Coincidence number one had been taken care of quite neatly. But that window washer still had to be dealt with. For a man who'd been washing windows for so many years to slip off the windowsill and then for the rope to break right at the time my amazing Mr. Fettle wished he were dead, well, that's a pretty touchy thing to reconcile the coincidence. I went back to the building and located the engineer who was in the basement replacing a steam valve on a hot water tank. At first, he wasn't very cooperative.
I suppose you're another insurance man who wants to know more about why we don't have safety measures for our window washers.
No. I just happened to be a newspaper man who was sitting in the park when it happened.
Well, if you saw it, you know more about it than I do.
He worked for you, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, what happened? Why should that man's rope break?
I'm tired of answering questions. That's all I've been doing is asking questions.
Well, look, mister, I'm not here to make trouble for you. I don't want to give you any bad publicity. I want to know why it happened, but... Of course, if you don't want to tell me, then I've got to believe that the building was responsible.
If I warned him once, I warned him 100 times. His equipment was rotted through. I told him he couldn't go to work on my building unless he bought new ropes. He was pretty sore, but he went home. At least I thought he went home. What happened was he got lost in one of the bars on Clark Street, and when he was good and drunk, he came back. Without me knowing it, he went to work. He was drunk, that's what he was. It was nobody's fault but his own.
If it wasn't for the fact that somebody else had suffered, the whole thing would have been funny. It was the most ironic joke that coincidence could play. On a pathetic old man who thought he had some kind of strange power, and on me, a sucker for anybody's story if they insist they've got one. I got Mr. Fettle's address from Miss Johnson at the place he used to work and went over to see him. He lived in an old boarding house. His landlady was a nice old gray-haired woman that was as interested in knowing where he could be found as I was.
He hasn't been home since yesterday. And that's not like him. 15 years he's lived here. And he never spent a night away from home.
But does he have any relatives or friends that he could have gone to?
Not a soul, sir. The loneliest man I ever knew. But the nicest. Why, he just wouldn't hurt a soul.
Well, I've got to find him.
Oh, but something's wrong, isn't there?
No. I've got a pretty important message for him, and it'll make things a lot easier on him when I tell him.
I see. Can't you tell me?
No, it's rather personal. Here's my number, though. You can reach me at the office. No matter what time he gets in, if you have any regard for him at all, please call me.
I certainly will, sir. And nobody has better regard for him than I have. You know, he's been getting awful thin lately. Yes, you'd think a man wouldn't starve himself just because he was out of work. Now, would you, sir?
Well, you call me. It'll be a lot different after I talk to him. I went to the office by way of Bughouse Square. I inquired here and there about an old gent with the white hair and the strawberry-colored eyebrows. They knew who he was, all right, but they hadn't seen him. I was getting worried about him. A nice little guy somewhere in the city running away from himself, thinking he was a dangerous killer. When I got to the office, there were no messages. I put my feet on the desk and I waited. And I started to do my column with coincidence playing the villain. I got halfway through, put my feet back on the desk, and dozed off. 2 o'clock in the morning, the phone rang. Yeah.
Mr. Stone?
Speaking.
He just came in just now.
Who?
Mr. Fettle.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'm coming right over. When I got to the house, she was waiting and had the door open before I could ring the bell. Is he in bed?
No, Mr. Stone. He's sitting in his easy chair.
His room upstairs?
It's no use going up there, Mr. Stone.
Well, what's wrong?
Well, as soon as I called you, I put some soup on the stove. You see, I wanted him to have something hot to eat. I knocked on his door, but well, he didn't answer. I opened it, and he was sitting in the easy chair. Before I got to him, his eyes went up at the ceiling. Then they closed, and his head rolled on his chest. He was dead.
I can't understand it. He wasn't sick. He was unhappy, but he wasn't sick.
It doesn't make much difference now what he was. Poor soul.
That's all that happened? Just what you told me? He didn't say anything?
Well, he mumbled something, but it's not worth repeating.
What? I want to know.
Some sort of foolishness, Mr. Stone.
Well, tell me. I've got to know.
I'm sure I heard it wrong.
Well, what was it that he said?
Well, as his eyes were on the ceiling, it seemed to me... Now, sir, I can be wrong, you know, but it seemed to me that he said, I wish I was dead.
Sitting on a park bench in the warm sun doesn't always lead to peace of mind. Not if you happen to be a harmless little guy who draws the ace of spades every time he makes a wish. Of course, we know that everything that happened was just coincidence. We all know things like this don't happen. You know, like the flying saucer. Copy, boy.
You are listening to Night Beat on the Wheaties Big Parade.
It's always nice if you like your work, which is why we feel we're pretty lucky to be in the Wheaties business. We love Wheaties, and we love people. We know that these little golden flakes of 100% whole wheat are good for people. So what could be more pleasant work than getting people and Wheaties together just as often as we can? Your grocer knows about Wheaties and people. See him, why don't you?
Night Beat, starring Frank Lovejoy, is produced and directed by Warren Lewis and edited by Larry Marcus. Tonight's story was written by David Peltz, with music by Frank Worth. The part of Mr. Fettle was played by Bill Johnstone. Others in tonight's cast were Joan Banks, Martha Wentworth, Parley Bear, Charles Seal, Stan Farrar, and Jeffrey Silver. Listen next week at this same time and every week as Randy Stone searches through the city for the strange stories waiting for him in the darkness.
And this is your Wheaties man, Frank Martin, inviting you to listen also on Wednesday night to Brian Donlevy in Dangerous Assignment on the Wheaties Big Parade. See you then.
Going to bake a pie sometime soon? Make it with Crust Quick, the Betty Crocker pie crust mix. You know, it's a tender, flaky crust that's at the bottom of every delicious pie, sure as you use Crust Quick. And so easy.
Just add water to Crust Quick.
And what pie crust? Tender crust, tasty crust, rich, short, lovely crust, just like Betty Crocker makes. And you can make it.
Just add water to Crust Quick.
Crust Quick, the Betty Crocker pie crust mix. Night Beat came to you from Hollywood with portions transcribed. Stay tuned for Christopher London over most NBC stations.
This I Believe. Dr. Max T. Crone, Dean of the University of Southern California's Institute of the Arts, is a serious musician with a merry twinkle in his eyes and an imaginative, balanced view of life. This is what he believes.
Some time ago, I saw an electron microscope photograph of a slice of tissue from the brain of a mouse. The brain cells of this mouse had been cut so thin that it would have taken 500,000 such slices to make a pile an inch high. The brain cells themselves had been enlarged so many times by the microscope that had the tiny mouse who gave his life for this scientific experiment been enlarged proportionately, he would have assumed the dimensions of some prehistoric dinosaur. Truly, I was having a view of life so close to my eyes that there was not space to blink. Just yesterday, I saw another photograph, one taken through the 200-inch telescope at Palomar Observatory, of a star so far away from us that its light had taken some fabulous number of light years, was it billions or trillions, to reach that sensitized photographic plate, even though the light was traveling 186,000 miles a second. My vision had been extended both into the past and into space, so far that I could only marvel breathlessly at the sweep of infinity that lay behind and around me. As I have thought of these two photographs, I have wondered if by chance there were some being on that distant star whose intelligence had so surpassed ours that he had been able to develop instruments so much more sensitive than ours, that he could not only see the little ball we call the Earth revolving out in space, but that he might also be able to see those tiny specks called men that creep and fly about this ball. And what if he might also be able to hear the things we say, or even hear the things we think? What would he think of these men? What would I think of myself if I had such a place in space and time from which I might observe my actions, scan my thoughts, and hear the things I say? What would I then leave unsaid, and what undone? I believe that could I reflect upon the life I watch myself unfold from such a distant star, I would not be content nor happy unless I had worked to leave that little part of the world in which I had lived some tiny bit better a place in which to live than it was when I was born into it. Just what form and direction my life would take with such compulsion would depend upon many things, upon the particular part of the world of which I was a part, and the people with whom my lot was cast. It would depend upon the particular combination of cells that formed my brain and body, and which laid down the pattern of interests and abilities that were mine. But this I believe, that from such a vantage point in time and space, I would see the truth that John Donne saw when he wrote, "No man is an island." And I am sure I would see that man, of all the forms of life that inhabit this revolving ball, the earth, has been given an unique capacity for enjoying it, but he has also inherited an infinite capacity for creating misery and unhappiness, both within himself and in his fellow men. And I believe I would see, far off in space and time, that the two are closely related, that I cannot be truly happy while my fellow man is miserable, oppressed, sick in mind and body, hungry, cold, unclothed, unenlightened, and unable to enjoy the beauty in the world about him. For I would see from afar what I too often cannot see at close quarters, that earth is fair, and all her folk be one.
That was Dr. Max T. Crone, a nationally known expert in the field of choral conducting and the teaching of music. He has, it seems to us, worked out for himself a creed which puts him in very close harmony with his fellow men.
The makers of Camel Cigarettes present Dick Powell as Richard Diamond, Private Detective. Why don't you smoke the cigarette so many doctors enjoy?
In a nationwide survey a few years ago, 113,597 doctors were asked, "What cigarette do you smoke, doctor?" The brand named most was Camel.
It was true then, it is true now, because repeated surveys have been made.
And every time, the brand named most has been Camel. Yes, these surveys show that more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette.
Why don't you smoke the cigarette so many doctors enjoy? Now we bring you another transcribed adventure with Richard Diamond, Private Detective, starring Dick Powell.
Diamond Detective Agency, Mr. Diamond speaking.
Excuse me, I must have the wrong number.
Oh, is that you, Helen?
This is me, Helen.
Oh, well, I thought maybe you might be a client. How are you, dear?
Well, I'm fine, but what's wrong with you?
Wrong?
Yes, what means that Diamond Detective Agency, Mr. Diamond speaking? You usually come on the phone like Roy Rogers and his horse Trigger. How come no slogans?
Well, to tell you the truth, dear, I couldn't think of one this week. Anyway, aren't you the gal who's always after me to get some culture?
This is culture?
Ain't nothing else but. You just want a jaw if you got something important to talk about,
This is Friday, you know.
Happens every week.
Yes, but this is the Friday when if you haven't got a client by noon, we're going for a drive, remember?
By Jove, that's right.
Well, by Jove, it is now 11:43 and 15 seconds, approximately.
Sounds like someone gave you a new...
What does that broken sentence mean? Client walk in?
Quiet. Don't talk so loud, dear. This one looks like he might scare easily. Good morning.
Good morning. Are you Mr. Diamond?
I am Mr. Diamond. Won't you come in?
Said the spider to the fly. I'll hang up, Rick. Call me back if you have time.
All right, dear. Bye.
Bye.
Well, come in, Mr.
Walker. Thomas Walker. I do hope I didn't interrupt your conversation, Mr. Diamond.
Oh, it wasn't important. Just my broker calling to tell me I've been wiped out. But enough of me, Mr. Walker. Let's talk about you.
Would it be all right if I sat down? I'm a little nervous this morning.
Well, you do seem a little worked up over something. Sure. Sit down, Mr. Walker. Sit down anywhere at all.
Thank you. Are you engaged, Mr. Diamond?
Well, not yet, but she's working at it. Just between the two of us, I think if I can hold off through the month of June...
Oh, no, Mr. Diamond. I meant, are you working for anyone on a caper, I believe you call them?
Oh. No. We honest and true private detectives just call them cases. As a matter of fact, you're in luck. I am at liberty to listen to your proposal. That is, if you wish to engage me.
Good. It's taken me some time to work up enough courage to come to a private detective. I don't think I could do it again.
I don't think you could either. All right, Mr. Walker, just what is it that's troubling you?
Well, I hope, Mr. Diamond, that it's nothing more than my suspicious mind. Oh, don't misunderstand me. I'm not by nature a suspicious person, but I have stumbled across something that I think should be brought to the attention of the local authorities.
Then why not bring it to the attention of the local authorities?
Well, because I'm afraid they'll laugh at me.
So you want me to go down and let them laugh at me, huh?
Oh, no. At least not right away. Not until after you confirm my suspicions or prove them ridiculous. In either event, you will know then what to do.
Well, before you lose me entirely, Mr. Walker, maybe you'd better tell me just what it is you want me to do.
I think the best thing to do is... Yes, I think that would be the best. That way they wouldn't...
Remember me, Mr. Walker?
Mr. Diamond, I want you to follow someone. Shadow him is the word I believe you use.
Shadow?
Yes. You do that type of work, don't you?
Oh, occasionally. Just who is it you want me to shadow, Mr. Walker?
Carter, I believe his name is. Joseph Carter. He must be the ringleader.
Oh? This Joseph Carter leads a ring?
Well, as I said, Mr. Diamond, these are only my suspicions. If you're going to laugh at me,
Now, take it easy, Mr. Walker. I'm just trying to get as much information from you as I can. Who is this Carter fellow, and where can I get in touch with him?
He's a chemist. At least he's supposed to be. And I don't want you to get in touch with him, Mr. Diamond. I just want you to follow him. Oh, it could be disastrous if you spoke to him about my suspicions.
Mr. Walker, you may not believe this, but I don't even know yet what your suspicions are.
And I think it would be best if I didn't tell you.
Oh.
That way you can form your own opinions about what is going on.
Mr. Walker, this is getting tougher as you go along. I don't even know where to find this Joseph Carter.
I have that all arranged, Mr. Diamond. Rather clever plan, too, if I do say so myself. Oh? You see, I'm meeting him for lunch, and he thinks we're going to talk about his wife.
By Jove, that is clever.
Yes, isn't it? Now, after lunch, that will be around 1 o'clock, I'll drop him off on the corner of First and Elm. Do you know where that is?
Uh-huh.
Good. Now, my car is a blue Essex sedan. When you see it pull around the corner, you be prepared to follow whoever steps out.
Oh, gosh, I haven't done this since the correspondence school sent me my diploma. All right, Mr. Walker, what happens then?
Then, Mr. Diamond, you stay with him night and day. You do have operators who work in shifts, don't you?
Oh, sure.
Oh, good. Now, the important thing is to impress upon your men the seriousness of what they're doing. Under no condition are they to let him out of their sight.
Oh, that's a cinch. Couldn't you give us something a little harder, like following 4 people at the same time?
Well, no. One of them might get suspicious, Mr. Diamond, and that wouldn't do.
Oh.
Now, about your money.
Oh, yes, by all means. My fee is $100 a day in expenses, Mr. Walker. And believe me, you're going to have some...
$100? Isn't that a little steep?
It's too much, Mr. Walker?
Well, no, I suppose not. I'll have to write you out a check. Will $300 be enough? That'll pay you up to Monday.
Well, yes.
By then, you will have cracked this thing. Or... written me off as a suspicious old fool.
Now, Mr. Walker, think how few private detectives there would be if no one listened to their client's suspicions.
There you are, Mr. Diamond.
Yes.
And here is my card. Both my business and home phone numbers are on it.
Oh, fine. All right, thank you. Walker Plumbing Company? You, Mr. Walker, are a plumber?
Yes. It is surprising, isn't it?
I smiled at him as he went out and then called Helen and broke the sad news. She pouted a little, I cooed a little, then we both hung up feeling very good inside. I had an hour to kill, so I decided to get a little fresh air. I was half a block from my office building when a whole ounce of imported perfume floated out of a doorway. It circled around a while and finally settled over my eyes. What I could see through the haze would have caused any airline pilot to come in for an emergency landing. And even though I don't fly myself, I put the flaps down and kind of slowed up a little.
Why, Mr. Diamond, I do believe you're stirring.
Oh, sorry. Do I know you, please?
No, Mr. Diamond, it isn't that good. Well, of course you know me.
Oh, I do, huh? Oh, sure. I remember now. Monte Carlo, wasn't it? Only you were a blonde then, with the moonlight behind you, making a halo for your lovely head, and I'm just ad-libbing, so get me out of this. Who are you, lady?
Sandra Browning. And it wasn't Monte Carlo. Come on, I'll buy you a drink and refresh your memory.
All right. But I hope we can cover everything in an hour. There's quite a bit of you to cover, isn't it?
Heaps. Much too much to run through in an hour. You're working on a case, then?
The luck of Ricky Diamond. Yes, Miss Browning, I am in the midst of what my client calls a caper. Go on the payroll at 1 o'clock.
I see. And, just who is your client, Ricky?
We were going to talk about you, remember?
Oh, but I'm so dull, Mr. Diamond, and you're so fascinating.
True, yes.
This place look all right?
Fine.
intimate, isn't it, Mr. Diamond?
Oh. Say, just how well do we know each other?
Can't you tell?
Honey, right now I probably could even tell you my name. And, I'm beginning to need that drink more and more. Shall we go mingle with those strangers? Stranger? As we walked over to a table, I shook my head a few times to clear it and get out of the danger zone of the perfume. I knew I'd never seen Miss Browning before. No, not that I've led a sheltered life, but something like her only happens once, and it usually costs an awful lot of money. Money I've never had. So, naturally, the same applied to Miss Browning. So, with renewed vigor and a firm grip on my wallet, I sat down beside her.
Cozy?
Too cozy. I'm a sort of a wide-open spaces man myself, and a couple of martinis. George?
George.
Now, about you, Miss B. Where was it our paths first crossed?
No, Mr. D, I've changed my mind. I'm going to make you guess. It'll be more fun that way.
Oh, and it will also be a long winter. Now, if we're going to get anything accomplished, maybe you better start talking. An hour goes pretty fast.
What happens in an hour that's so terribly important, Mr. Diamond?
A guess.
I don't want to guess. I want you to tell me.
You know, we may run out of things to talk about in a minute now.
Not if you tell me what I want to know. All right, so I'll take a guess. Does this case have anything to do with, say, a bank?
Well, you tell me. Does it have something to do with, say, a bank?
You're fighting me, Mr. Diamond.
Who's fighting who? All I'm trying to find out is whether...
You're going to wish, Mr. Diamond, that you had talked to me.
Well. Conversation seems to have picked up a little. But we might as well save your breath, Sandra. I ain't talking, you ain't talking.
So, if you'll excuse me, I have to make a telephone call.
All of which left me with still a half hour to kill. I paid the check and then dropped by the 5th Precinct to say hello to Walt Levinson. He was sleeping, so I tiptoed back out and headed for the corner of 1st and Elm. I'd been there about 5 minutes when a guy whose face looked vaguely familiar came up and said...
Excuse me, is this a bus stop?
No, but there's a cab stand a block down the street.
Oh, thanks. I might have stood here for 3 days.
How's that?
I saw you waiting around, so I figured it was a bus stop. Guess I'll have to take a cab now. Say, if you're waiting for one, maybe we can split the fare?
No, thanks. Funny. I'd swear you were hanging around the 5th Precinct when I came out.
Oh? How long ago?
About 15 minutes.
Well, come to think of it, it's possible that you did. I went in to pay a traffic fine. Yeah.
Is that right? Speeding, was it?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it was. Those things do happen, you know.
Oh, yes. Of course, the really interesting part about all this is that the 5th Precinct doesn't accept traffic fines.
Huh?
You have to go all the way downtown to pay them.
You're kind of a smart aleck, aren't you?
Oh, yes. Life of the party. Just give me a lampshade and a bustle, and I'm a...
Hey, what's the idea?
A car spun around the corner just as the guy shoved me. I landed in the street, but rolled over in time to see the front door open and a body come spilling out, sliding to a stop against the curb. The guy with the phony ticket hopped on the running board, and the blue Essex sedan lost itself in the uptown traffic. Now, all I could do was sit there and look at the crumbled form lying in the gutter. Mr. Thomas Walker had given me a check for $300. That was to last until Monday. For Mr. Walker, Monday was just 2 days too many.
Before we continue with Richard Diamond, here are a few words about smoking enjoyment.
After all the cigarette mildness tests, including the famous 30-day Camel test, Camel leads all other brands by billions.
Here's how you can make your own 30-day Camel test. A sensible test of cigarette mildness based on steady smoking.
Smoke Camels, and Camels only for the next 30 days. In other words, go steady with Camels for 30 days. Pack after pack, week after week.
Here's what you'll find out from your own 30-day Camel test.
You'll see how rich, how flavorful Camels are, pack after pack. you'll discover how well Camels get along with your throat, week after week.
That does sound like a sensible way to judge a cigarette, doesn't it? So why not start your own 30-day Camel test tonight? It won't take you long to find out why Camel leads all other cigarettes in popularity by billions of cigarettes per year.
How mild, how mild can a cigarette be? Make the Camel 30-day test and you'll see. Smoke Camels and see.
And now, back to Richard Diamond, Private Detective, starring Dick Powell.
They abandoned the car about 4 blocks down the street, Rick. Too bad you didn't get a look at the guy behind the wheel.
Everything happened too fast, Walt.
Yeah. You feel all right now?
Yeah, just swell.
I guess the idea of all this is that somebody figured you and Walker knew too much.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense either, Rick. You said Walker wouldn't tell you a thing.
No, but he gave me $300. Between now and Monday, I'm going to try to earn it.
I can use the help. You got any idea who was gunning for him?
No, not exactly. But whoever it was kept pretty close tabs. He was followed to my office.
He tell you that? Then how do you know?
Well, indirectly, a girl named Sandra Browning did. She said something else that's kind of kicking around in the back of my head, too.
Sandra Browning. Oh, that's the brunette you told me about?
Yeah, she seemed to think Walker said something to me about a bank.
But he didn't.
No, but that's what makes it so interesting. Oh, drop me off at that drugstore, will you all? I want to look up a phone number.
Sandra?
A fellow named Joseph Carter.
Who's he?
Supposed to be a chemist. Walker told me about him. Well, thanks for the lift, Fatty. If anything happens, I'll get in touch with you. Mr. Carter?
Oh, yes, that's right.
Well, I'm a private detective. May I come in? I'd like to talk to you.
You, mean about my wife, Mr.
Diamond.
Oh.
Richard Diamond. What about your wife, Mr. Carter?
Well, nothing. I merely supposed. I mean, after all, you said you were a private detective.
Oh, yes. But I don't handle divorce cases, Mr. Carter.
Oh, I see. Then what...
I just want to ask you a couple of questions about a plumber named Walker. Thomas Walker. Do you know him?
A plumber? Now, that's strange. Mr. Walker called me on the phone this morning and asked me to meet him for lunch. He said it was important to me that I be there.
Were you?
Well, yes, I was. That is, I was at the appointed place at the proper hour, but this Mr. Walker never did make an appearance.
Oh, I see. You said this Mr. Walker. Does that mean you didn't know him?
Not to my knowledge. The voice didn't register, and the name wasn't familiar. This is very interesting, Mr. Diamond. Would you like some coffee? I'll ring for the house.
No, thanks. If you didn't know Walker, Mr. Carter, why did you agree to have lunch with him?
Well, for several reasons. As I told you, he said it was important to me, and since I was going to be downtown anyway...
That isn't good enough, Mr. Carter.
Well, I'm afraid I don't understand.
Thomas Walker was killed less than an hour ago. You say you were supposed to have lunch with him. That puts you in a suspicious position.
Yes, I see. So that's what this is about. How did you get my name, Mr. Diamond?
Oh, that isn't important. What I want to know is why you agreed to have lunch with someone you didn't even know.
Well, this Walker fellow, he said some things over the phone.
What kind of things?
About my wife. He said it would be to my advantage to meet him and discuss it. Under these circumstances, I had nothing to lose, so I agreed.
Under what circumstances?
Well, you see, Mr. Diamond, my wife and I are, well, we're drifting apart.
Mm-hmm.
She's been seen with another man, a fellow named Dave Johnson.
Dave Johnson? Who's he?
Chap I sold my shop to when I retired last month. He and...
Oh, excuse me. I didn't know you had company.
Well, come in. Come in, Sandra. We were just...
No, I won't disturb you. Go right ahead with
Yes. Come in.
This is my wife, Sandra. Come in, dear. Come in.
I'd rather not.
Oh, it's all right. I was leaving anyway. Come right in, Mrs. Carter, isn't it?
Lieutenant Levinson.
Anything break, Fatty?
No, nothing but my head. I've been doing some thinking, Rick.
Well, since you've already pulled the punchline, go ahead.
What? Oh, look, Rick, you said this Sandra Browning.
Carter. Browning's a phony.
You know, someday you're going to meet a girl that gives you a right name, and you won't know how to react. That's the trouble with guys.
As soon as you have finished the discourse, Fatty, we can get back to the plot. What have you been thinking?
Well, you said that this Miss Carter...
It's Mrs. Carter, Walt.
Will you stop that? I don't care if it's Mrs. Whipperteffer. I want to know what she said. She did say something about a bank, didn't she?
She did?
Yeah, and you said something about a guy named Joseph Carter who's a chemist.
Walt, so help me. If you tell me they're married, I'll throw this phone from here to the 5th precinct.
You do, and you'll never find out the startling news I'm about to unfold.
All right, unfold.
It's better. On the corner of First and Elm, on the very corner where you nearly met your demise, there is a bank.
That's very interesting.
You're darn tootin'. Right next door to this bank is a small shop with a sign painted on the window. Pretty good sign, too. Somebody took a lot of pains with it.
Walt,
All right. Maybe it doesn't mean anything, but the sign says Carter Chemistry Corporation.
Oh, that's what you've been thinking about.
Yeah. Only now it's even more interesting because of this Sandra Browning Carter girl. It's a definite connection.
Uh-huh. With Walker, the plumber, making the connection. Well, thanks, Walt, and, bye. Hello? I'm looking for Mr. Carter. Is he in?
Ain't nobody here but me, and I'm getting ready to leave.
Closing up a little early, aren't you? It's only 4 o'clock. Oh, I see you're doing a little repair work in the back of the shop there.
Yeah, I had a little explosion in there a couple of days ago.
Oh, must have ripped up a little plumbing down there close to the floor.
Yeah, we're getting it fixed up. Sorry to rush out like this, buddy. You know how it is. Friday afternoon, weekend coming up, you know.
Oh, yes. Well, when you see Mr. Carter, just tell him Horace Crutchmeyer was in to see him. He'll understand.
Horace... Well, tell you the truth, Horace, Mr. Carter don't come around here no more. He's retired. Sold out everything, lock, stock, and test tube.
Oh, is that so? Well, I'll get in touch with him at home. See you.
Yeah. See ya, Horace. You know, this could turn out kind of silly, Rick. What if they don't show up?
Oh, they'll show, Fatty. I checked the floor plan of both buildings. Got it figured they'll break through about here.
How many of them do you think there'll be?
Just 3. If they knocked off Walker because he got suspicious, they won't cut anybody else in.
Is Carter in on this, Rick? It's his chemistry shop, isn't it?
No, not anymore. He sold out to a guy named Dave Johnson. You'll meet him as soon as they blast the wall out.
And the one I'm anxious to meet is this Sandra Browning Carter. Sounds like quite a dish.
Not my type, Walt. I like him a little more tender.
What's the other guy's name, the one who shoved Walker out of the car?
Don't know yet. I met him in the shop this afternoon. Well, you'll like him, too. He's got sort of an ingrown face.
You know, you got to hand it to him, Rick. It's a pretty slick stunt they're pulling. I in the shop next door to a bank, digging through the wall, and shit.
There they are, Walt. Maybe we'd better get over here.
Right. What'd I tell you? Ever see anything so easy in your life?
Dave, does he have to keep talking? Can't you make
Look, both of you knock it off and let's get busy, huh? We've only got till tomorrow morning.
Hit the lights, Rick.
Okay.
Well.
Are you...
Now, play it smart. We don't want to carry anyone out of here.
Oh, is this the bank you were talking about, Sandra? Still not talking, huh?
She doesn't look like much to me, Rick.
Now, Walt, don't be catty. Remember, she's been a very busy girl.
Mm-hmm. Well, now that they're broken into this kind of work, I guess they won't mind it so much for the next few years.
Mm-hmm.
But, Rick? Why did Walker want you to follow Joseph Carter? He didn't have anything to do with this, did he?
No, but Walker thought he did. He tumbled to what was going on when he went in to repair the plumbing. Naturally, he figured Carter was behind it. Ain't I getting smarter as the months go by?
Uh-huh. And speaking of months going by...
Yes, dear?
It will soon be June, you know.
June? Oh, now there's a month to conjure with.
Oh, do you mean it, Rick?
Well, sure, June must be about my favorite. Let's see now. Don't I know a song with June in it?
Oh, Rick.
Let's see. June. Kind of a strange name to me, but, well, this might do it. Oh, it's a long, long while from May to December, but the days grow short when you reach September. When the autumn weather turns the leaves to flame, one hasn't got time for the waiting game. Oh, the days tumble down to a precious few. September, November, and these few precious days I'll spend with you. These precious days I'll spend with you.
Faker, you. There wasn't a single June anywhere in that song.
Come to think of it, there wasn't.
You want to try again?
I guess not.
Something else you'd rather do?
Honey, what an opening that is. Come here.
Now, that's what I've been waiting for. More?
Honey, stop. If this keeps up, I won't be able to hold off till June.
Dick Powell will return in just a moment.
What's America's most popular cigarette?
Camel is in the lead by billions of cigarettes per year.
One reason is Camel's rich, full flavor. A flavor no other cigarette has.
And another reason is Camel's pack after pack, week after week mildness.
Tonight, start enjoying the one cigarette America enjoys most. It's Camel, of course.
Yes, of all the cigarettes on the market today, Camel is in the lead by billions of cigarettes per year.
How mild can a cigarette be? Smoke Camels and see.
Here's Dick Powell with a special message.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, to bring a little extra cheer and comfort to our hospitalized servicemen and veterans, the makers of Camels send them thousands of packs of gift Camels every week. This week, the gift Camels go to Veterans Hospitals, Clarksburg, West Virginia, and Miles City, Montana. U.S. Naval Hospital, Corona, California. U.S. Army Station Hospital, Carlisle Barracks, Pennsylvania. The Military Air Transport Service, which evacuates virtually all overseas wounded personnel. Now, until next week, enjoy Camels. I always do.
Tonight's adventure of Richard Diamond was written by Ty Cobb with music by Frank Worth. Virginia Gregg was heard as Helen Asher and Alan Reed as Lieutenant Walt Levinson. Others in the cast were Bob Griffin, Joyce Manners, Sidney Miller, and Jim Backus. Richard Diamond, Private Detective, is transcribed in Hollywood by Jaime Del Valle. Be sure to listen to another great Camel show, Vaughn Monroe and the Camel Caravan, every Saturday night. If you're ever asked who's the most obliging taxpayer, vote for yourself if you're a cigarette smoker, because you and 60 million others pay more than a 50% tax on the cigarettes you smoke. Yes, every time you buy a pack of cigarettes, you pay the federal government 8 cents, and most of you pay 3 or 4 cents more in state or city cigarette taxes on that pack. That means that better than half the price you pay for cigarettes goes for tax. Listen next week for another exciting adventure of Richard Diamond, starring Dick Powell.
Now stay tuned, for This Is Your FBI, followed immediately by Ozzie and Harriet over most of these stations.
This I believe. Dr. Nelson Glick is president of the Hebrew Union College and the Jewish Institute of Religion. In addition, he is a distinguished archaeologist. His accomplishments include the verification of a number of biblical accounts with scientific evidence and the unearthing of 70 ancient villages in the Jordan Valley. Now he turns from the past to the present and the future, as he states his belief.
Many years ago, I was on a bicycle trip through some exceedingly picturesque countryside. Suddenly, dark clouds piled up overhead and rain began to fall. But strange to relate, several hundred yards ahead of me, the sun shone brilliantly. Pedaling, however, as rapidly as I could, I found it impossible to get into the clear. The clouds, with their rain, kept advancing faster than I could race forward. I continued this unequal contest for an exhausting half hour before realizing that I could not win my way to the bright area ahead of me. Then it dawned upon me that I was wasting my strength in unimportant hurry while paying no attention whatsoever to the landscape for the sake of which I was making the trip. The storm could not last forever, and the discomfort was not unendurable. Indeed, there was much to look at, which might otherwise have escaped me. As I gazed about with sharpened appreciation, I saw colors and lines and contours that would have appeared differently under brilliant light. The rain mists which now crowned the wooded hills and the fresh clearness of the different greens were entrancing. My annoyance at the rain was gone, and my eagerness to escape it vanished. It had provided me with a new view, and helped me understand that the sources of beauty and satisfaction may be found close at hand within the range of one's own sensibilities. It made me think, then and later, about other matters to which this incident was related. It helped me realize that there is no sense in my attempting ever to flee from circumstances and conditions which cannot be avoided, but which I might bravely meet and frequently mend and often turn to good account. I know that half the battle is won if I can face trouble with courage, disappointment with spirit, and triumph with humility. It has become ever clearer to me that danger is far from disaster, that defeat may be the forerunner of final victory, and that, in the last analysis, all achievement is perilously fragile unless based on enduring principles of moral conduct. I have learned that trying to find a carefree world somewhere far off involves me in an endless chase, in the course of which the opportunity for happiness and the happiness of attainment are all too often lost in the chase itself. It has become apparent to me that I cannot wipe out the pains of existence by denying them, blaming them largely or completely on others, or running away from them. The elements of weakness, which mark every person, cannot absolve me from the burdens and blessings of responsibility for myself and to others. I can magnify but never lessen my problems by ignoring, evading, or exorcising them. I believe that my perplexities and difficulties can be considerably resolved, if not completely overcome, by my own attitudes and actions. I am convinced that there can be no guarantee of my happiness except that I help evoke and enhance it by the work of my hands and the dictates of my heart and the direction of my striving.
That was the creed of Dr. Nelson Glick, educator of Cincinnati, Ohio. He bases a balanced way of life upon principles even more timeless than the biblical relics he has uncovered.
Mr. District Attorney, starring David Bryan. Mr. District Attorney, champion of the people, defender of truth, guardian of our fundamental rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Now, tonight's story, The Case of the Assassin in the Dark.
And now, here is our star, David Bryan, as Paul Garrett, Mr. District Attorney.
A criminal is a cunning animal. He trains himself to break the law just as the district attorney trains himself to enforce it. Each regards the other as an enemy, and enmity leads inevitably to violence. But violence was far from my mind the night this started. Harrington and I were driving home from the annual police frolics. What are you laughing at, Harrington?
Oh, those cops. Dressed up like can-can girls in that chorus number. Did you ever see anything like it, Chief?
They were very funny.
Yeah. And the commissioner, old Stoneface himself. I almost died when he did that imitation of that dame, why don't you come up and see me sometime?
Oh, the commissioner's a good sport.
Yeah, tonight. But let one of the boys goof on an assignment tomorrow, and whoom, through the roof.
Oh, that's his job, Harrington. If things go wrong, he catches it from the mayor.
Oh, speaking of the mayor, Chief, he's worried about you.
About me? Why?
I'll give it to you in 2 words. Johnny Genetti.
Oh, forget it.
The parole board never should let him out.
The parole board had no choice, Harrington. Genetti served his minimum time. He's been a model prisoner for 6 years. He's entitled to a break.
You mean you told the parole board that in your recommendations?
Yes.
For a guy who swore he'd get you the minute they put him on the streets?
Harrington, I've heard the same threat 100 times from 100 different men. Some of them are decent citizens today, and I'm still alive. A man can change a lot in 6 years.
Oh, sure. But someday one of them's going to hold on to his grudge, though. And Genetti was the best candidate I ever saw.
Forget it. I will be at your house instead of mine.
Oops, sorry, Chief.
Well, thanks for the ride, Harrington. See you at the office in the morning.
Oh, Chief.
Yeah?
Watch yourself, will you?
No, I'll be fine. Good night, Harrington.
Good night, Chief.
No lights. Oh, that's funny. That plug must be loose. Who's in here? I see your shadow there in the corner. Now, who are you?
Goodbye, Mr. D.A.
Taking them so long. Why didn't the doctor come out?
Hannah, just take it easy, Miss Miller. There's nothing we can do but wait.
They've been in surgery for 2 hours.
One of the bullets is lodged right near the heart. Don't worry, though. The chief is in good condition. He's tough.
Don't try to cheer me up when you don't believe it yourself.
Miss Miller,
What if he dies? If only I could talk to him. If only I could talk to him for just a minute. You worked for a man for years. Your heart's all wrapped up in him. You have to have pride and dignity because you're a girl and you could never say anything about it or do anything about it. I want to see him. Just for a minute. Is that too much to pray for?
Miss Miller, Edith, listen to me.
What?
Even if we can see him later, whether the doctor thinks he has a chance or not, make sure of what you intend to do is set.
Why? He doesn't even know I'm alive. Except for being a secretary in the office.
Oh, he knows you're alive.
Oh, yes. Not the way I want him to know it. You know how I feel about him.
Yeah. But he doesn't. Suppose you tell him. Suppose you do, and later on he's all right. What are you going to do then? Go back to the office and just wake like nothing happened?
You mean you could never care for me, don't you?
No, wait a minute. I didn't say that. Some people just can't afford love, Edith. They can feel it inside, but they can't show it for fear of hurting. Someday, if he lives, Chief may run for a different kind of office, mayor or governor, something safe that he can share with a woman. If you've got anything to say to him, that would be the day to say it.
Thanks, Harrington.
As long as I'm making speeches, I'll tell you something else. Maybe it'll help you understand. There was a time for 2 years when you first came to work for the chief. But I thought of quitting, asking a girl to marry me.
I never knew that.
I know you didn't, but you should have. You were the girl.
Harrington.
No, it's all right. It's all right. I got over it. Now, do me a favor, will you? And forget I had to tell you. Okay?
No. I'll never mention it, but I'll never forget it. I'll be all right now.
That's all I wanted to...
What is it?
Doctor just came out of surgery. He's coming down the hall.
How is he, Doctor?
We managed to remove the force bullet all right, but...
Give it to us straight.
And it's critical. If we can keep him alive for a few days, he's got a chance. About 1 chance in 4. He's going to need transfusions of whole blood every day, starting right now.
I may be.
We need type O.
Well, then you can start with me. I'm type O.
Good. Go down the hall and tell the nurse. She'll make the preparations. I'll be there in just a minute.
You sure it's okay, Miss Miller?
I'm all right.
I'll have a man from the staff check with you. Typing. And you can count on any cop in the city as a donor.
Good. We'll need him. Say, is that one of your men looking for you? Just came in down there?
Oh, yeah.
Are you going to wait?
No, I still have a job to do. I'll keep in touch by phone. See you later. Jeff.
Oh, there you are, Harrington. I was looking in the waiting rooms. How's the chief?
1 chance in 4. But I swear to you, that's more of a chance than Janetti's going to have. What have you found out?
He got a job driving a laundry truck yesterday, the White Flash Laundry.
Uh-huh.
We also got a statement from a woman who lives around the corner of Mr. Garrett's apartment.
What?
She couldn't sleep. She heard the shots.
So did a few other people.
Well, her statement goes a little further than that, though. Shooting happened at 1:30.
Yeah?
About a half hour before that, when she couldn't fall asleep, she looked out her front window. There was a White Flash laundry truck parked in front of her house. When she heard the police cars after the shooting, she came out into the street. The truck was gone. Want an all-points pickup on Janetti?
Yes. And make it dead or alive. We'll play it whichever way he wants it.
You guys want to see me?
That's right. You own this laundry?
Yeah. You come about the ad for route men?
No, this is police business. You got a driver named Johnny Janetti?
That bum. What's he done?
We'll tell him. Where is he?
Huh. Where is he? Wish I knew. Because wherever he is, that's where his route collections are, too, the bum. He worked 1 day and he doesn't show up this morning. I even had to go for the truck.
You're a pretty trusting soul for 1 day. What's your name?
Charlie Drake?
I've seen this boy someplace before, Harrington.
Yeah, so have I. I don't think his name is Drake. Charlie Frisco in my book. Talk up, Charlie. You're one of the Frisco brothers, aren't you?
It's Drake now. I had to change legal.
Didn't you know Janetti was an ex-con when you hired him?
Well, don't think so much before you answer, Charlie. You might guess wrong. Janetti's first conviction was with one of your brothers.
Okay, so I knew. I figured he wanted a chance to go straight, so I gave it to him. A bum.
Did you report your truck missing when he didn't come in this morning with the route collections?
No.
Why not?
I don't blow no police whistles.
Watch Janetti's address. Come on. You picked the truck up there. Watch the address.
3120 Mason Street.
Can I use your phone?
For a dime you can, copper.
You get it.
We won't need a squad, Harrington. He's on the run.
Just the same, I want to stake out there and here while we search the place.
Closet's empty. Drawer's empty. Whatever he had, he took it with him, Harrington.
Yeah, I guess so.
Hey, maybe he's gone to... What is it?
Somebody out in the hall.
Boys outside would have spotted him.
I told him to keep under cover. Let him come in if he shows. Get your gun ready.
Okay. Open it.
Miss Miller.
I couldn't see the room numbers in the dark hall.
What's the matter?
I've been back to the office. There's no phone here, so I had to come out.
Why?
The police across the river found Johnny Giannetti an hour ago.
Where?
Chief Hotel. He's dead.
Dead?
Left a note saying that the police would never get him as long as he'd had the pleasure of killing Mr. Garrett.
First time a killer ever saved us the trouble of finding him. Maybe he isn't the one who shot Mr. Garrett after all.
He's the one, all right.
How do you know?
Lab reports. Sent wire photos through to our ballistics department for comparison. The gun Giannetti killed himself with is the same one that was used to shoot Mr. Garrett.
That does it, then.
Yeah. What's the latest on the chief, Miss Miller? How is he?
I called the hospital just before I came out. He's worse. He's in a coma.
A man I couldn't see in the darkness had attempted to assassinate me in my own apartment. Harrington suspected and sought a man who was newly paroled from prison and had once threatened to kill me. But when the man was found, he was seemingly a suicide and had written a note of confession concerning the attempt on my life. For more than a week, I hovered between life and death. And then on the morning of the 9th day...
Just a little more oxygen, nurse.
Well, how is he, Doc?
Pneumonia complication is gone. His fever broke about an hour ago. It's just a question of bringing him around now.
You hear that, Miss Miller?
Oh, yes.
That transfusion you gave him right after we removed the bullet helped a great deal. Well, now we're getting some places coming out of it. All right, nurse. Take off the inhalator mask.
Hiya, Chief.
Harrington. Miss Miller. Well, there's nothing to cry about, Miss Miller.
Well, he's down to the woods now. You can stay about 15 minutes. Just don't tire him.
Oh, we won't, Doc. We won't. Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Don't mention it. I'll help you wheel that out.
I told Miss Miller, Chief, you were too tough to kill. Didn't I, Miss Miller?
Yes.
Whoever did it tried hard enough.
Oh, we know who did it.
Who?
Johnny Giannetti. I warned you about him, Chief.
You sure you're right?
Oh, by his own confession, written just before he killed himself with the same .38 he used on you. I guess he knew we'd get him sooner or later.
He wrote a confession.
That's right. He said... Come in.
Harrington, can I... Oh, Mr. Garrett, you're all right.
What they call doing is, well, as can be expected, Jeff. Sit down.
Thanks, Mr. Garrett, but I just stopped in for a second. I have to see Harrington about something. Can you step outside for a second, Harrington?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Secrets?
Oh, no, just something personal.
I'll be right back. Well, just don't stare at the Chief, Miss Miller. Talk to him.
All right.
Come on, Jeff. What's up?
I just rode into the emergency ward downstairs in an ambulance. A kid about 15, all cut up by a broken bottle.
Uh-huh.
He says a gang of hoodlums jumped him, beat him up, and robbed him. Took $6 worth of nickels.
What is he, a newsboy?
No, a high school kid.
Why so many nickels?
He says he hit the jackpot in a slot machine on his way home from school.
Where?
Back room of a candy store near the school.
A slot machine?
That's what he said.
You send anybody out there to look for the machine?
Well, the kid doesn't know the address of the store or the name of the owner. There are half a dozen places within 2 blocks of the school. Besides, a back room. We need warrants.
Well, get them. Go to Judge Brennan and get an order to search every place within a mile of there. That's the first slot machine in this county in 5 years.
It's the first of a lot of things in 5 years, if you ask me.
What do you mean by that?
There's a mob moving in. I can feel it.
Get the warrants. Come back and pick me up.
Okay.
You got back just in time, Harrington. I just finished telling Mr. Garrett about...
Yeah, I know. I heard. Giannetti saved the state a lot of trouble.
What's wrong, Harrington?
Oh, nothing. Not a thing, Chief. Everything's just fine.
You'd better tell me, Harrington, because I've got something to tell you.
Well, a kid's just been hurt after hitting a slot machine. Whole county feels tight and restless, like it's going to bust wide open.
Who's behind it?
We don't know.
Want me to tell you how to find out?
How?
I'm the man who tried to kill me.
But it was Giannetti who tried...
Yeah, it wasn't Johnny Giannetti.
But he said...
I left a written confession. Hidden by whom? Don't you remember when we arrested him? He was an illiterate. He couldn't read or write.
Hey, what's going on in here?
Doctor, a problem has come up
That may put you right back where you started from. I ask you not to tire him or excite him.
It's my fault.
Give me a wrist. Stop trying to sit up. His pulse is way up. You'll have to leave.
Oh, Doctor, give me 2 minutes. 2 minutes to outline a plan. From there on, if you'll cooperate with Harrington, he can handle it.
I know you're not a fool, Mr. Garrett. So this must be important. All right. What do you want?
Get a couple of chairs over here, and I'll tell you.
What do you got to hog the whole table for, Charlie? Why can't I take a cue and play?
Because I don't want you to, Poggin. You act like a dummy, so stand there and look like one, too.
Who do you think you're talking to?
I'm talking to you. Look at that newspaper. Garrett's getting better. He knows it wasn't Janetti who gunned him. With Janetti, you make it good, but with him, you got to louse it up. I'm not going to take a chance on you, Poggin.
What's that supposed to mean?
I can hire other guns to make sure nobody talks about me. If the heat comes on, you go out like a light. Unless you pick up the job you started and finish it.
No? What's the matter? You crazy? How do you think I'm going to do that?
Grace!
You want?
Come in here. You ever been a nurse?
One of them things bounce up and hits in the head?
Get Benny to forge you some papers. Then go to a private nursing service and register.
What for?
Because Poggin's going to need a nurse when he goes into the hospital tonight. You'll case Garrett's room, find out when he's alone and asleep, and when the night nurse is off the floor. Then, I'll get going, both of you. Let me finish my game.
We got a bite, Chief. Just admitted downstairs. Special request for a room on the 5th floor.
I just want to get away from the sound of street traffic.
No, not this baby. Torpedoes spelled all over him. Oh, this guy asked him to call a nursing agency, too. Wants his own nurse. He don't look that sick.
That could mean something. You set for the night?
Oh, yeah. You know what you have to do.
Yeah.
Did the doc okay it?
Just once. He's got me bandaged up pretty good.
Well, if you can't make it, yell right away.
I will. Go ahead now so I can put the lights out here.
Good night, Chief.
Good night, and good hunting.
Poggin, where are you?
Yes, dressed.
Why don't you up and dressed?
I am. I had to keep covered, didn't I? What time is it?
A little after 1 a.m. Go ahead and get it done.
Give me the getaway again.
Charlie's waiting in the parking lot with the car.
Yeah.
The fire escape outside Garrett's window. When you do the job, go down. We'll pick you up.
Yeah.
I'm taking the elevator now. Go ahead. 514. Next to the last door on the left.
All right. I see you in a few minutes. This time, mister, I'm not going to miss.
That window's shut tight, mister. You emergency joining moves around the fire escape. Don't go out. I'll kill him. All right, you got him, fellas. Chief, you all right?
Hot in the closet. Fainted.
Yeah. Good thing you didn't faint before you got that bed stuffed with the pillows and got yourself in here. After that guy's nurse looked at you. Was she?
What's that?
Parking lot down behind the building. What's the matter? What's happened down there?
It's me, Harrington. Yeah. We got two of that guy's playmates trying to take off in a car.
Who?
The nurse and Charlie Briscoe. I didn't want to do this, but I'll tell you anything.
Shut them up and take them in, Jeff. And on the way, pick up Briscoe's brothers.
Right.
Hear that, Chief?
I heard. You'd think all the regular patients have moved out of this wing.
Yeah, let me give you a hand in another room down the hall. You don't want to sleep here until they cart that torpedo out, whoever he is.
What to do with more pleasant surroundings. Mind if I ask you something personal?
Hmm? Oh, go ahead.
What's been going on lately between you and Miss Miller?
I don't know what you mean.
She's been looking at you strangely lately. I noticed it during visits. There's something about you puzzled her.
Oh, just a little private joke I played on her. I got a puzzle. Let's go in here.
What kind of a joke?
Well, nothing much. I'll tell you about it someday.
You will, huh?
Mm-hmm. Now, lie down. I'll call the doctor to come up and look at you.
Oh, Harrington.
Yeah?
You don't want to tell me, do you?
Sure. Sometime. Nothing important, just a little joke.
Oh, okay. It's your secret. Just remember what I told you before.
What?
You're a very bad liar.
Yeah, I guess so.
Good night, Harrington.
Good night, Chief.
He must have told her how he felt about her. Boy, Harrington. I guess he thought I didn't know. As though something like that could be going on in my office without my sensing it. Faced with the incriminating testimony of Grace Brewster, Charlie Frisco and his three brothers entered pleas of guilty to conspiracy to commit murder, 2 counts, and accessories to murder, 1 count. They are serving sentences of 99 years each. For complicity, Grace Brewster is serving 20 years. Now, this is David Bryan inviting you to join us when we present our next case based on the facts of crime from the file of Mr. District Attorney.
You have been listening to Mr. District Attorney, which has come to you through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.